Wheeling Plant Commission meeting for Thursday, July 28th, 2016 is called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Secretary, roll call, please.
Commissioner Saku. Here. Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Powers is here. Commissioner Zangara. Here. Chairman Rafato.
Here.
And Commissioner Dorman and Commissioner Cianis are absent with prior notice.
Thank you. Brooke, any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
Okay. Citizen concerns and comments. Mr. Styler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to bring to your attention a very dangerous traffic situation that's occurring at Dundee Road and Schoenbeck. Don and Jim, I'm sure you're aware that the normal northbound lane on Schoenbeck Road has been closed and leaving the two right-hand lanes to now handle the northbound and southbound traffic. Well, 3 times this week I have turned into southbound Schoenbeck Road from Dundee Road only to be faced with the car shooting up what was the southbound lane, which is now, or which was a northbound lane, now a southbound lane. Luckily, I could get my rear end in before being stuck out in Dundee Road, and at one time the guy was just sitting there blowing his horn waiting for me to move. Now today they went out and put traffic cones out down the middle of the dividing line, but guess what? An hour ago there was somebody on the other side of the line sitting there trying to make a left-hand turn. So something needs to be done there, otherwise there's going to be either a head-on collision or somebody's going to turn in and not have enough room to turn in and get hit, have their rear end hit. So I think it would behoove somebody in the village to take a little bit closer look to the situation. I know you guys are.
I hear a lot more horns.
Yeah. The other thing is I'd like to remind you that the Taste of the Town is September 14th. Wednesday from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Weston this year, and the Wheeling Public Library will be one of the benefactors of some of the revenue that the Weston or the Taste of the Town takes in that day, and we will be using that money to provide additional facilities for the children that the library wouldn't normally provide. So the revenue goes to the Library Foundation. So if any of you are interested in tickets, please contact Pam. She's not here tonight, the Chamber of Commerce, any one of the library members, myself, Terry Stylen at 847-537-7287. And hopefully it'll be a very nice evening for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Since we had the sign-up sheets so late on citizen concerns and comments, any other items other than those? Any items for review? No? Okay, great. We have no consent items tonight. Number 7. Docket number 2016-16, Omni Youth Services 210 through 212 North Wolf Road, special use site plan approval of a social service facility. Mr. Secretary.
Docket number 2016-16, Omni Youth Services Incorporated, owner is seeking special use site plan approval as required under Chapter 19-05 Mixed Use and Overlay Districts, Chapter 19-10 Use Regulations, Chapter 19-12 Site Plan Approval Requirements, and associated sections to establish a social service facility at 210 to 212 North Wolf Road, Wheeling, Illinois, which is zoned MXC Commercial Residential Mixed Use Area. Standards for a special use. A zoning special use is defined in Title 19 of the Village of Wheeling zoning is a use of a parcel of land that requires review and consideration before approval due to circumstances or effects on the surrounding properties that may adversely affect them. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at the public hearing why their request meets the conditions of the village code, including but not limited to how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or use of the surrounding properties. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that their request for a special use meets the standards established in Title 19. Commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting material submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Brooke, any comments?
Not at this time.
Great. Good evening. Mr. Shapiro, how are you this evening?
Fine.
Will, I assume more than both of you will be speaking tonight?
Well, there will be really 3 speakers, and then we'll
Okay.
have another individual.
So this is a public hearing, so those that are going to speak, if you could raise your hand, if you stand up and raise your right hand, do you all swear the testimony you give tonight to be the truth?
Yes.
Okay, great. So as you speak, if you could give if you have a business card, if you could give it to our recording secretary, that would be great. And as you speak. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Dan Shapiro. My office address is 3661 Woodhead Drive in Northbrook. Thank you for hearing us tonight. As was just indicated, we're here for special use for a social service facility just down on Wolf Drive, which actually has really bad traffic tonight. So please excuse me for jumping in here about 30 seconds before the matter was called. You have in front of you the staff report, which we were delighted to see. It was quite favorable. Our packet, our responses to the special use. I'm going to turn the floor over to Doris McCarthy in just 1 second, but one thing that's kind of interesting is that, as some of you may know, this facility was here before in the village for many years. Then there was a funding issue, and now it's back. So I think that's probably perhaps the greatest compliment of all, to come back home to the village of Wheeling. So I want to thank you, and I'll now turn the floor over.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for the opportunity. So yes, it is that we're back home again.
Can we have your name?
I'm sorry. Doris McCarthy. I'm the COO of Omni Youth Services. I've been with Omni for about 30 years. Makes me laugh. And I'll give you my card. As soon as I'm done, I have it in my purse.
Great.
So we are coming back home, and it's nice to be back. Omni's been around since 1972, and we started actually in Wheeling, in the village, in a little white house on Wolf Road until about 1985. And we were in this building that we're talking about now from 1992 to 2008, when, as Dan said, there were some funding issues. We lost some funding, had a reduction, and we needed to downsize a bit. So real quickly, I promise I won't go on and on, our mission is to partner with parents in the community to provide innovative and transformational behavioral and educational support services to children, adolescents, young adults that create pathways to success and healthy behaviors. So the long and short of it is that we really just want to partner with families and the community to make sure kids are successful.
I hate to interrupt you for a second. Excuse me, they're leaving? I think they're looking for the tax thing at the Park District. Are you looking for the tax? It's at the Park District, which is right across? It is. Yes, it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sorry.
It's a big complex. So that we have been a part of the community for 45 years, starting right here in Wheeling. Our services are available to the residents of Wheeling and Wheeling Township in both English and Spanish. We provide services on a sliding fee scale. We also accept Medicaid and MCO or Obamacare, as it is often called. We accept those plans as well, and we even have a few clients who pay us money to come see us. And this facility brings us, as I keep saying, back, but this is where the majority of our service recipients reside, is in this area right around the building. By having the use of this building, we will remove a huge barrier for some of the residents of Wheeling, the village of Wheeling, and that is the transportation. It's not that far away on Lake Cook Road. I think it's four miles away, but there's no way to get there if you don't have a car or someone to drive you. The other pieces that we're going to maintain are Buffalo Grove facility, which is on Lake Cook and Arlington Heights Road. That's our administrative offices. It offers us some very large group rooms, the ability to hold big events, and to see people in more than one location. We also have a facility in the township building further down on Arlington Heights Road. We are in the basement of the township building, and we can see residents there, and that is often another barrier, is that this way it gets us closer to some of the people in that area. We serve youth who are 12 to 18 years old. And again, majority of them are coming from the village of Wheeling itself, and the majority of those are coming from the area around this building. Youth are referred to us by schools within the community, different community organizations, police, other families, and kids will tell their friends, and they will come as well. Why are they referred? They're referred because of mood disorders, anxiety disorders. Anxiety seems to be crippling a lot of our youth today. Substance use experimentation, substance abuse, youth development, developing leadership skills in kids, and legal issues. And we provide that through a combination of family, individual, group, as well as crisis intervention. Our staff are master's level. We run a lot of evidence-based practices or programs that have been proven to be effective. We don't just let our kids hang out in our building. Youth are greeted by staff in the lobby. They are escorted up to group rooms. The same kind of procedures would occur in this facility. Youth are not allowed to be in the parking lot. There's not smoking allowed on our facility. We make people go out to the sidewalk, and they do that, but they have to at least get away from our buildings. And we meet them outside. We make sure they walk in. We can't have parents just drop off kids and have them go somewhere. We have to make sure they make it up into the building and up to where they're going. We follow a balanced and restorative justice, which I'm sure many of you already know about, but it's making sure that victims' rights are heard and that every youth is held accountable to everybody that they need to be. Couple quick numbers: 39% of our clients are of Hispanic, 44% are white, and 72% of them report an income of under $22,000. I missed one, but that's okay. Prevention, I clicked too fast. But our prevention programs is also in Wheeling Township as a whole, not just the village of Wheeling. And we focus on community coalition building, education of the community, awareness, policy development, and we have two specific grants. One focuses on alcohol and drug prevention, and the other one focuses, it's a new grant that we just got this year. Wheeling was identified as a high area for adolescent pregnancy, and so we received a grant to work on adolescent pregnancy prevention. We have peer juries that some of you may be familiar with, working with the Wheeling Police Department, Buffalo Grove Police Department, and providing actual referrals from the police where kids become the jury. They decide sentences for youth and then follow up to make sure those youth are fulfilling those sentences. I forgot to say on the counseling side too, we work well with our police. Wheeling Police we work very closely with. We actually have police social workers in 3 police departments: Prospect Heights, Vernon Hills, and Highland Park. And so we know how to work with the community. And last but not least, thank you for whoever went back to prevention for me. And we have a community outreach program. You guys may remember this as our resource centers, and this is to serve low-income families. It connects families to emergency resources like Salvation Army funds, We help staff the food pantry. We have after-school programming like Chill, which is an after-school program to build life skills and also help kids on homework, keep them inside doing something with adult supervision after school. And we have parenting classes as well. So that's an overview of Omni and who we are. And then I think next we have our building.
Good evening. My name is Sean Elke, and I'm an architect with Elke Lonergan Architects. We're located at 224 South Milwaukee Avenue in Wheeling. So tonight what I want to do is just basically walk you through what is being proposed for the site. We have some photos up on the screen. This is actually the east side of the building, and that is a kind of a main corridor that runs to the west side of the building. This, although it has the signage here for the 210, this is really being seen as probably, it's kind of a pedestrian entrance area, but I would say it looks like the main entrance, but the main entrance is really on the west side of the building. As you can see, the building has some permanence of quality materials. It's mostly brick, face brick. It has insulating windows, aluminum frame windows and storefront. And it's basically being looked to be, the site is being looked to be rejuvenated and refreshed to use the building. Okay, if I move to the next slide. Okay. It's hard to see this in the light, but this is more of an overall shot from Wolf Road, and you can see the extent of the frontage along Wolf Road. And you can see the sidewalk entrance that leads to that last shot. This is really the west side of the building, and this is what's viewed as what is the main entrance to the building. And when we go to the site plan, you'll see why. It's basically because it's adjacent to all of the parking that's provided on the site. This is the west side, and you can see to the right the brick material that carries around from the front side, and to the left it's a drive-it material, and then there's some screening element, the darker element to the left. That's a fencing that hides all the electric panels and so forth that come in from the power pole that's directly to the north. This is the south elevation of the building. Again, it's a series of punched windows and all brick. I would highlight in this photo, although it's hard to see, the parking lot has suffered some deterioration over time, and that's one of the things that is being looked to be addressed when we get to the plan. And then this is looking back kind of from the northwest corner looking to the southeast, and that's looking at that entrance, the main entrance, and you can see the overhead lines and so forth that comes in to the weatherhead conduits. Okay, I can't zoom any closer than this. Okay, so this is the proposed site plan, and basically by proposed, it's basically rejuvenating and refreshing what we have there. I want to talk about four things tonight. One will be parking, fencing, trash enclosure, and landscape. With regards to parking, all of the parking is located on the west side and the south side of the building. The existing parking lot layout actually provides for 29 parking spaces, but no handicap spaces. So what we are looking to do is to grind and repave the existing lot, and then to restripe it. In doing the restriping, we are going to incorporate the two required handicap parking spaces. One will be on the west side of the property line, and the other one will be on the east side of the double-loaded aisle at the entrance. And then along the south wall of the building, we have angled parking. Can I go back to, how do I go back on this? Just, can you go back to that one right there, the next one? Okay, if you look here, this is the vantage taken from the main drive-in at the southwest corner, and you can see that the angled parking is actually turned opposite to what's being proposed in our site plan. And we're looking to do that as a result of, if you look at this spot right here, we want to make that single lane apron, we want to make that an exit only, not an entrance, because of the proximity to Wolf Road at this point. So people will turn in, they won't have to turn in here, they'll actually go down to the entrance and exit that's further west on Capri. Okay. Then when they make the turn, if they use the parking lot on the south side, they'll turn and they'll be faced with the angled parking spots. In this scenario, we end up, count-wise, we lose one parking space from 29 down to 28. 28 is 26 regular parking spaces and 2 handicap parking spaces. Additionally, on our plan, you can see that we have paint striping for ingress and egress arrows, as well as the exit egress at the corner. Staff in their review came back and said that they wanted to see provisions for bicycle parking to at least have space for 2. It's not shown here, but it is intended by Omni that will be provided on the site. And then if you look at the building, at this spot here, that dark square, and then there are 3 on the west wall, 1 there, 2, and 3. Those are existing parking lot lights or lights mounted on the building that light the parking to the west and to the south. To the west of this site is an apartment building, and we don't have a photo of it, but the east side of that that apartment building is primarily all brick. I don't think there are any windows in that building. But what is being proposed here as separation and screening purposes is there's an existing 6-foot-high wood stockade fence that's fallen into some disrepair and is in need of repair. So the intent here is to remove that and to provide a new 6-foot-high cedar stockade fence. The boards will be tight enough so that it'll be basically a solid fence. And the fencing will be done with metal poles to support it. When we get up to the northwest corner, there's actually a trash area, and that trash enclosure screening has fallen on some disrepair and some damage. That will be addressed and dealt with in a similar manner with the fencing. The extent of the fencing is the entire west property line up to the northwest corner, and then it runs east all the way to essentially the northwest corner of the building. So the fencing and the building provide screening views from the east, from the west, and from the north. And lastly, I want to talk about landscape. I am not a landscape architect and don't profess to have their credentials, but I am being asked to discuss it tonight or talk about it. And what is being proposed is at the very front of the building, at that what looked like kind of the ceremonial main entrance, there are 2 trees. One of them is dead, and that one is going to be removed, and a new tree will be put in. And then further up to the northeast corner, there's an area, and we want to downplay those entrances. And just to kind of soften the look of the building, another new tree is being proposed for that location. Additionally, on this document, there is there are some notes about a rain garden area. The existing building has its roof area that drains to 2 scuppers and downspouts located on the south wall. And right now, they basically just spill right onto the pavement, and it's a maintenance issue. In the wintertime, it freezes over and so forth. And so as part of the parking lot rework and rebuilding, there are going to be 2 underground lines put in to connect those 2 downspouts, and then bring that over and terminate into the lawn area that's along the south property line. I know that there are plant materials that were in the packet. I know there are grasses, drought-resistant and water-resistant grasses and materials that are being looked to be put in that rain garden area. And I think that basically concludes my comments with regards to the proposed work for the site. Any questions, or for later?
Oh, I'm sure we will.
Okay.
Just a couple of quick comments, and then be happy to take questions. I think Doris was being pretty modest previously, and a couple of things that I wanted to let you know. Over 45 years of Omni, they have served 625,000 people. That's extraordinary. While in Buffalo Grove for 25 years, there have been no complaints, problems, police calls, anything like that. While here for 10 years, I believe the staff report indicates no problems whatsoever. I think that's a really, really great record to run on for a terrific program like this. After sending out notice, we have not heard any complaints or issues from the neighbors. I don't know if any are here, but just wanted to let you know. All the conditions are acceptable to us, but I want to just add a couple of things. First of all, one of the things that staff asked in the report was when would be the full build out, and weather permitting, because we're going to be coming into the fall pretty soon, build out will take 6 months. So that answers that question. The other thing is, we looked at some of the comments from the fire department. We appreciate their comments, but there are some, I think the best way, some clarifications that we would like to discuss with the fire department, so that if you were to give a recommendation, I hope tonight, we would ask that that recommendation be contingent upon working out some of those clarifications with the fire department. If not, then we would ask to come back so we have a little time to talk to Inspector or Chief McIsaac, as the case may be. So we're now open for any questions.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone that wishes to speak on this matter? No. Brooks, you can go over the site plan that you have up. This is the floor plan you have over there. One before I turn it over to the Plan Commission, the questions were around, Mr. Shapiro, you alluded to them, about the phased approach. So if you could maybe describe the floor plan and what is going to occur inside here, that'd be great.
Certainly. So one of the things that we're doing is we're not adding any space. We're just changing the way the space is laid out. What we want to do is make flexible workspace so that we can use it for many different things. For example, the larger group room isn't meant to host a big training or a large meeting. It's meant to give us the flexibility to do experiential interventions. So for example, we have wood planks and pedestals, and we look at a family and we say, you guys need to get from here to here, and there's not enough wood to get there. And then we watch the way the family does that interaction and the way that they communicate with each other, and then try to teach them other ways to do it. Or we ask a family to do it without talking and see, we watch the 14-year-old take charge, which is not what anybody wants in a family system, right? And so that's the use for that. When we look at some of the bigger staff area room, what we're really going to do is set up a hoteling type of setup where staff can come in and out, but no one will have a dedicated space except for supervisors. Some of the other meeting rooms are the ones that are kind of labeled group rooms. When we did this, I didn't think the words made much difference, but in hindsight, I think they make a lot of difference. And so some of those large group, some of the rooms that are labeled group meeting room would be for a therapists and a family of 3 or 4 or 5 to meet and have a session. Some of the smaller rooms will just be used to have a meeting between a couple staff, or if a staff needs privacy when making a phone call, to walk to another room so that they're not surrounded by other people. And so really the layout is meant for the flexibility, to have different heights of tables, different heights of desks. People can use different rooms for different things. At no time do we expect that there would be more than 25, 28 people in the building between staff and our clients. We still have the Buffalo Grove facility, so big events would occur at that. We have a room that holds, I think it's 80 people, the one room holds. I mean, those type of events will occur at our Buffalo Grove facility. When we want to bring in 30 people at one time, there's plenty of space in Buffalo Grove for those to occur. And again, that's 4 miles away.
Okay. So one of the questions that I have, and I'm going to let the commissioner start, but in the staff recommendation, they talked about phases, and Ms. Shapiro, you discussed that. You were alluding to that. But you mentioned that the build-out would be 6 months. So is that the complete build-out for this? Okay. So everything that's here is, so why was the mention of phases?
Frankly, I don't know, that could be something I just wasn't looped in on. But what I do know is that the build-out would take 6 months.
Complete build-out. Yeah. So then I think that gets into the question of the fire and probably where you have some comments there. So why not? Why don't we discuss those now so the Plan Commission can hear your concerns, and then we have Ron here from the fire department that it can be discussed right away.
Sure. So one of the issues that we want to go back to fire about.
He's here.
Yes, maybe in a more intimate setting. Hi, how are you?
He's here.
Is the department's request for fully sprinkled building. Not only do we think that maybe there could be some more communication about the use and how it will not intensify, as Doris just mentioned, but the sprinkling the building to retrofit it will be at least $100,000. It's a lot of money. We're not trying to do it just because of money, but we're trying to do it because if there's a way to avoid spending $100,000 through a clarification in the use of the space, we certainly would rather not spend $100,000. So the intensity of the use is not going to change. The interior is going to be kind of not intensified. For example, there was mention of a mezzanine. All right, when I think of mezzanine, I'm thinking of balconies, et cetera, et cetera. We are not having that. That's a misnomer, misclarification, a misstatement on our part. We'll take responsibility for that. The mezzanine is for storage, so it will not be for more bodies. It's for storage. And that's some of the things that we thought would be topics of conversation with the department so that we could get on the same page and perhaps better identify the interior uses of the building. Now, in terms of, I'm sorry, Chairman, in terms of phasing, I suppose where that could come in is, as I understand some of the concerns of the fire department, you get to a point of intensity of use where sprinklers are triggered. And through the build out at point A, you might have build out to point A, there's no triggering. Point B may not be a triggering. Point C might be a triggering. So maybe there was a discussion on phasing to allow for use without triggering sprinkling the entire building.
If I could clarify, the phasing discussion only started because of the floor plan states the build-out is in phases.
Okay. All right, so there's some clarification there. What we would like to do is either, again, obtain favorable recommendation contingent on further discussions with staff and fire department, or allow us the opportunity to talk to the fire department. We can approach this in a way where the build-out would take 6 months, and we would know, the fire department would know from us, we would know from the fire department exactly where we all stand.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No, that's quite all right.
The phasing was also about finances. As we all know, Illinois is not the most financially sound state in the country, and so it depends. You know, if things stay the way they are, then we can get done and move all 3 phases forward. If things change, things may need to slow down. We get about 60% of our funding from the state of Illinois, and so most of it's been coming through pretty good, but there are a few of our grants that are not, and so it really, and they're big grants, you know, so it just kind of, the phasing was to give us the options in case of financial issues.
How do we address that?
I don't think it's a plan commission concern.
Okay. So, Mr. Shapiro, as far as, you know, the mezzanine and, you know, some of this is hard to read on here, if it's stated on here. The issue, and it's not an issue, but the concern we have is that if we have a floor plan and it's not really worded correctly, or the fire department, when they evaluated it, looked at it and didn't quite understand it, it's not something that we can just change on a dime here.
I understand.
In order for us to pass a recommendation, and as you well know, we're a recommending board.
Yes.
We need a floor plan, we need everything as you're going to build it out and as you're going to do all the exterior things. And if there's some confusion with the fire department, then that has to be resolved before it comes to us to ensure that we have all the facts and diagrams so we can pass it on to the village board.
Understood, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, and we're happy to make those facts clearer through revisions
Right.
necessary.
My
Happy to
sense
do
is
it
that-
and apologize for where we are now.
No, apology not needed, but my sense is that by the end of this review, you will probably get a sense of the direction that the plant commission is going to take.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
so,
Thank you.
sure, no problem. So we'll start with Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. Well, to continue on that same line of thought, yeah, it would be great to have a much clearer picture of what is exactly going on with the interior build-out. It's very hard to see on the one drawing that we did get. You already talked about the fence. I do have a bit of an issue with flipping the parking direction around, because now your exit is so close to Wolf Road that if somebody needed to, you know, head out that way, it seems like there's not much room for them to do that. You know, if there's another car waiting to get out on Wolf Road, they're not going to be able to pull out. So I would rethink that. It's probably why it was designed the other way in the first place. And the only other minor thing I had was about the bike rack, actually. I thought that 2 spaces might not be enough, considering the age group that you're dealing with. So I'd like to see that increased to at least double. And that's all I have for now. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Zangara.
Thank you. say the same thing about the floor plan. I think what might clarify a lot up with the floor plan is almost putting like furniture, almost like a furniture plan, so you could see the meeting room, how many seats are in there. Like you talked about the big meeting room, you could explain that it's not a, you know, there's not gonna be 20 people in there. Question I did have though is like, is it more of a, kids get dropped off? So how long is usually that process for a parent to come check them in? I'm just thinking for parking reasons, like how,
So services occur in two ways. Kids get dropped off. Most of the time, parents drop and run. Sometimes they sit in our parking lot and wait. But the other way is for family sessions, and so then parents will park their car and stay. And so it's a split. And the other thing I didn't say is a lot of our services actually don't even occur in the building. We are in, I think, 14 different schools within this area, and we facilitate a lot of groups directly in schools. That reduces that barrier of them, oh, I forgot, so we just pull them right out of class.
and then what would be typically, I know it probably varies, how long is a kid or family usually there?
So if it's a family session, they're there for about an hour. If it's a group session, they're there for 2 hours, and one night a week, we have a few consecutive groups, and so we'll have a youth there for 4 hours with 2 back-to-back groups.
Okay, I was gonna question about the second floor, so it's just a mezzanine? Is that, so the first floor then, I mean, is there actually floors? Is there a floor or is it a real mezzanine?
It's a floor, and what it will be used for is, one of the things I didn't talk about, because it doesn't occur in the building, is we have an outdoor wilderness therapy program where we'll take kids out in the wilderness for 3 days or 7 days or 10 days, and real-life events occur, and they're out there with our trained therapists, master's level therapists, who are also have outdoor wilderness skills. And what happens is they encounter a life event, and they have to resolve it in order to move on. So one example is they'll be hiking and they're tired and they don't want to go on, and they'll sit down and they'll refuse. I'm not moving any further. And so rather than really argue with them, we let the youth together make a decision. We can do that, but we're eating whatever's cold in our bag, and we're sleeping right here on the trail without a tent and without a mat. And if that's what we want to do, we can do that. We can rest. And usually youth will persevere through. We'll come back, we'll do some therapy groups with them. They'll talk about perseverance. And then when they're in group and they're talking about how hard it is to get themselves to class every day, we talk about perseverance and where they found that when they were out on the trail. And we help them use that back in the therapy. And so that equipment is tents, mats, backpacks. We have hiking boots in every different size in the world. We even have, socks, because a lot of these kids don't own the right kind of socks to go on a winter hiking trip. So that's what that mezzanine will be used for.
And you talk about these hiking trips, do you hire a bus service then, or do you have your own transportation?
We have 2 vans.
So will those vans be on site?
No, they'll stay right at Buffalo Grove.
Okay. I guess,
And we also have a trailer, just for full disclosure. We have 2 vans, 2.5 vans, and a trailer.
okay, and then I guess the last question, I was a little confused. Is this building currently sprinklered? Because I saw retrofit, or is there no sprinklers?
No, the building's currently a non-sprinklered structure.
Okay. And it was okay back then when it was built to not have a sprinkler?
Under the building code at that time, yes. And the issue with the retrofit is based on the review of the documents, which I suspect we'll get into a little later, was they were increasing the occupancy load based on what some of the rooms showed. And increasing the occupancy load in the building is one of the triggers for the retrofit provision.
Now, would we be able to limit that by capping an occupant load?
Capping the occupant load is a kind of an artificial means that's very difficult to enforce.
Understand. Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have right now.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sacco.
Thank you. Excuse me. I'm new to Wheeling, so I don't have the history of Omni having been here before, but I'm excited to hear that these services are coming back to the community. One of the questions I had, because I read a couple times that the client base is within a mile radius of this facility. I was curious what data supports that, but I imagine from hearing you speak that it's just from your clients that you have currently at other facilities, and they seem to be from this general area. Is that correct?
And when you look at the income levels at different parts of Wheeling, we serve a low-income client.
Okay, and I do share the same concern about the bike rack. I would just, normally I don't, but, considering that it's students coming in, and I imagine kids find comfort in the services and people they work with, so I was curious if that's common, if it's just parents dropping off, or if an older, like a 16 to 18-year-old teenagers, if they come on their own at all, or?
Sometimes they come on their own. We don't have a lot of bikes on our Lake Cook Road facility, but that could very well just be because it's on Lake Cook Road. Every now and then, a youth will bring a bike. We don't have a bike rack. We should get one, though. Kid will bring it into the building and just leave it in the building. But right now, there's very few, and again, I think it's because we're on Lake Cook Road.
Sure.
One should not ride a bike on Lake Cook Road.
Right. Yeah, okay. And the other question I had, we kind of brought talking about how busy the building might be. As far as activities go, you'd mentioned that some of the bigger ones might happen at Buffalo Grove, but are there certain days of the week that are busier as far as the programs that you put on? Are there certain weeks where you're at the schools more? How does that work?
So yes, there are at the moment days that we're busier. I really hope to change that. I want to be busy every night. So there are nights that are more geared to different client populations. During the summer, we'll see kids during the day. Like for right now, during the month of July, we have a summer program where kids are getting a mix of therapy and activities, 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, Tuesday through Thursday, the whole month of July. Most of the year, it's just administrative staff in the building during the school day. And our staff go out to the schools to see youth. We get busier after 3:30, 4 o'clock, and staff are there. Clients are there till 9 o'clock, staff are there till 10 or 10:30.
Thank you. And then the other questions I had were just about the plan signage. I saw there was a sign there. There's a sign there currently. I saw that there. But is there a plan to change or do anything different with that, or is it going to be the same structure and just no?
I don't know the answer.
Okay.
Is my honest answer, and I will find that out because obviously we'll be back.
Just curious. I know you have to come back for that type of thing.
And I'm sure what we would do is just redo the sign in its current location would be my initial reaction, but I will confirm that.
That is it for now. Thank you.
Commissioner Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted, you did post your hours in the packet. Looks like 9 to 9 Monday through Thursday, and then 9 to 4 on Friday, and 10 to 3 on Saturday. And Sunday, no hours, or are you open on Sunday?
If we have to, we'll do an appointment if that's the only way a family can do it, but it is exceptionally rare. We
Okay,
do have 24-hour crisis intervention. That does not occur in the building. It occurs in police departments.
okay. This would necessarily be for you, but the rear door in the west side of the building, it's all rusty. Is that going to be repainted?
Assured, yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure we get that down. Kind of in agreement with my fellow commissioners about the number of bike racks or whatever. I think we need more. And I would want to make sure that, if you do come back, that we make sure that the bike rack location is designated on the actual site plan itself. We have that. Like to talk about the material for the fencing that you're going to replace, and I appreciate you're going to do that work. Can you talk at all about, I know it's going to be cedar, how is that going to be stained at all, or is that just going to be a natural color? How is that going to look? And if you can expound a little bit, as far as you said, there's metal poles. Is it metal poles to support the stockade fence? Are you going to have cross bracing on the fence that's going to be metal? Can you talk a little bit about the construction of the fence and what type of material, and if it's going to be stained or anything like that?
can Tony talk?
Sure.
He's our general
I just
contractor.
have to swear him in.
Well, I sometimes swear at him, so that's.
Do you swear the testimony you give tonight to be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
I had taken some bids on the fence, and we always had a plan of either duplicating exactly what it is, which is a flat cedar board. It's painted brown now. We were going to look at just a raw cedar fence to start with. I don't know if we were going to do the half circle cedar with the little picket on the top, which is a standard, cedar stockade fence, 6 foot high, horizontal supports.
Wood or metal? Wood?
The horizontal supports would be wood.
Okay.
The vertical supports would be metal because of it's got a much more durability against wind and blowing over and so forth.
But with the metal pole, would the stockade, it's like next door to each other, so would the metal be blocked? It would just,
Yes.
you wouldn't see the metal, it'd
Yes.
just be the
Correct.
support behind the fence?
Correct.
Okay.
We've seen them wrapped. We've seen them.
Yeah,
That's
gonna
very,
ask about
yes,
that, too.
that would be
Right.
it's like a tubular,
Right.
not tubular, but like a channel. And the two pieces fit together.
Right.
And then they put a trim board on the other side of it. And then the cedar part, the nicer part would face inward.
So I'm not sure if we would need to see that type of detail on a site plan. I mean, we've seen fence construction, I don't know.
We've just,
The fellow that's
We
doing
just
the
make sure
fence
we got
would
it
get a
documented
permit.
somewhere.
He would be pulling a permit.
that's,
from the village.
again, not the issue, pulling the permits. I mean, we don't,
Okay.
we let staff take care of permits. What we're looking for is the definitive, what it's going to be, that's going to go to the village board. If you're going to have the little
I
points
see.
on top,
Okay.
however you describe that.
It's a-
So,
But yes, I can get details.
yes,
for you.
and that'd be part of the packet. That's all we're looking for.
Okay.
Right. And Brooke can explain that to you, and those are the types of things. Again, accuracy in the packet that we have, that, because what we're approving and recommending to the village board, they are going to see. So
Fair enough.
if you go in there and say, well, we think it's going to be this, but it really turns out to be that, it's not.
Okay.
And I know your intentions are good. That's not the concern, but we just want to have packets that are accurate
And detailed.
and detailed, yes. Right.
No problem.
Kyle, on your email to staff or us, you had mentioned about parking lot striping plan with dimensions. Are you talking about the actual site plan and you want to see the dimensions of the parking spaces on that? Is that what you were referring to?
Yes, that's what I was referring to. I just want to make sure that the parking spaces are wide enough, the drive aisles are wide enough. I'd like to all see that all on the site plan.
Okay. So, yeah, I guess we would need to see that type of detail. I guess there was a comment in the staff report about heavy rains causing standing water and ice. Was that from you, Kyle, or was that from staff? I just was wondering if that was referring to the downspouts, the two downspouts on the south side, and now the insertion of the rain garden. Where was the actual standing water and ice? Where would that form as the site stands right now? Does anybody know?
I did make some comments about the rain garden. At the moment, I don't know that there's any drainage issues the way the site is now. But with this rain garden, it's going to have 4 drains that are not shown on this site plan, which we'd like to see where those are located.
Okay.
So our concern is that when the water, infiltrates the rain garden and we get a lot of water and it starts, bubbling up or coming out of these drains, we do not want it to, flood the sidewalk, cause, drainage issues such as that. I'm not sure if these, depending where these drains are located, it may negatively affect the way it drains out there, but that's still to be seen.
Okay. Speaking of the rain garden, I know we were presented with a list of plantings and stuff that could potentially go in there. I think what I'd be looking for is a detailed landscape plan of what's actually going to be put in that rain garden. because I don't think anything was submitted to us as far as a landscape plan. So I think we're going to need to see one. I think we've asked for that on other petitions that come before us. Let's see here. Brooke, do we have any, is there any photometric plan documented for this site at all? I know they have the wall packs, and the reason I really asked for the hours is any concern they may have that the lighting that's there now is going to be sufficient for their use. If they have a photometric plan, is that something that we can just make sure that the lighting that's on that building now will be sufficient? And maybe it was sufficient, for, what's there, but I just want to make sure that we have adequate light.
There was probably a light plan approved with the original site plan approval however many years ago,
Okay.
but there's no proposed site plan right now.
I'm not really sure if we need one. My concern was just that we have adequate, those packs throw out adequate lighting. So when people, go in the evening, because they said they're open till 9, and I think I heard another comment that, some people stay to 10, that we just take care of that as a safety concern. There was a mention about, removal of dead tree from one of the entrances, and they were going to be, I think it was around the south entrance, and you were going to be putting another tree in, putting another tree in the north side of the building to kind of like balance it. What type of trees are we going to be putting there? And whatever we put there, I guess I would just like to know what species we're going to put there. And we've asked, our rule is we've kind of asked for 3-inch calipers on those trees. So I want to make sure that we have documented what trees are putting in and make sure that they're 3-inch calipers. Let's see here. I guess you made, the statement was made too that we have a couple of vans too, right, that are going to be used. So I assume that we're probably going to, we've asked to have, we're probably going to need to designate some space or put a condition that, where those.
Indicated they will not be parking those on site.
Huh? They will not.
We will not be parking them on site. We'll keep them at our Buffalo Grove facility.
Perfect, okay.
It's a
I'm
large
sorry about
parking
that,
lot.
if I
That's okay.
misunderstood
No,
that.
that's okay.
Let's see. Oh, I wanted to ask you about the phasing, because I keep hearing 3 phases. I know money's an issue and the sprinkler system and all of that. I get that. So, like the Commissioner, Chairman Rafata was saying, it looks like you guys have a pretty extensive build-out plan for the inside. And I assume maybe, depending on funding, you may decide to maybe not do some of that. I don't know, but for phasing, maybe something that would be good is, since it is such an extensive floor plan, possibly if it's actually going to be phased, where you're going to phase out and you're going to actually build certain parts of the building at a certain time, maybe if you color-coded like some parts of the site plan, say, okay, red is like phase 1, green is phase 2. So I think that would illustrate it, how that's going to actually be built out, and maybe that's, that would, help us all understand how that's going to be phased in.
It was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought it was stated that everything is going to be constructed at the same time.
It is. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I did say that, Brooke. But then there was clarification depending on how the state releases funds and how the funding. But
So if we
assuming
the
everything is
intent-
do it slower,
The intent is
the
to
intent, absolutely.
construct all at one time, so it would not require phasing. In fact, would you be willing to remove the labels that discuss phasing on the floor
Yeah,
plan?
we can show them in different colors, whatever colors you want.
No,
No,
but if it's.
remove the
If you're
word
not
phase.
proposing
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
phases, would you be amenable to deleting the word phases from your plans?
Yes.
So the only thing I have to ask about that is there, at what point do they get a certificate of occupancy? Does the whole thing have to be, or you guys determine when they get the certificate, no matter what's built inside there or not? Is that how it goes? I don't know, I'm just curious. So if they do 75% of it, is that good enough to get a certificate of occupancy? Do they have to do the whole thing? They run out of money, they don't have some of that? How does that happen? Don't know.
I mean, that would probably be determined based on what actually happened.
Yeah, they would, it would be
They would
based,
have to come and show us what's done, well, show staff what's done, and if it meets the requirements to receive a certificate of occupancy, they might be able to get it with only part of it built out, but it would be really
They'd have-
fact-specific.
it'd have to meet certain criteria. They couldn't skip out on the toilets, for example.
Yeah,
You know,
okay,
we would determine that through staff review if that in fact happens.
okay. I think that's enough for me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ron, do you want to go into more detail about the fire suppression that's needed? I still think there's some questions around that, and I'm sure there'll be some discussion because that will impact the floor plan as we go forward. So if you could expound on that.
Sure, if you're
anymore.
ready, if you want to do
Yeah,
it now's as good a time.
I'm ready.
Okay. Basically, the unit, the building was previously an office occupancy, and when it was originally designed, it would have been designed according to a B-use group, which is roughly 100 square foot per person. I'm going to really simplify it. There's a lot of variables.
Good, thank you.
And part of the other elements, you look at doorway widths, number of exits, things of that nature. But if we just look real simple at 100 square feet per person in a business use group, you're coming up with an occupancy load of, say, 100 people. When I had met with their staff a couple months ago, and that was one of their questions about would they need to sprinkle the building. And at that time, I asked them what they were going to do, and they said, well, we're just going to have offices, so on and so forth. So I said, based on that information, you're essentially keeping the same character of the building. The answer is no, you do not have to sprinkler it. Then when the plans were presented, there's 10 large or larger rooms that had different descriptions of meeting rooms, group room, things of that nature. And those type of spaces are calculated differently under some different characteristics under assembly use group occupancies for the number of people that can go in the room. To simplify it in another manner, if we look at the building we're in, the Village Hall, it's a B-use group building, which is roughly 100 square foot per person. There's some exceptions. The room we're sitting in is an exception. This is an assembly use group occupancy. Instead of 10 square or 100 square feet per person, if you look at the number of chairs in front of you, you can see there's a lot more chairs and there's a different calculation figure. So when I looked at the different variables that I would anticipate that they could be using based on what they were classifying the rooms, excuse me, it would appear that they were going to, you could use a calculation that was less than 100 square foot per person. If you use tables and chairs, it's roughly 15 square feet per person. So if you take 15 square feet per person in a 100 square foot room, the occupancy load goes up as opposed to the 100 square feet per person. So if you take and add all those things together, the design occupancy load of the entire structure would exceed what it was originally designed as, which would then be an increase in the occupancy load in the structure and trigger the retrofit provision in the village's sprinkler ordinance. So that's kind of a real quick, simple thing. At the same time, for Commissioner Zangara, they mentioned the word mezzanine, and that is, again, that is another, in my mind, it's I call it an anomaly in the building code. It is a method to increase floor space for occupancy where you don't have to meet certain code requirements, and there's a number of specific things you have to meet. But in my career as a firefighter, when a fireman looks at the front of the building, it looks like a two-story building, but they call it a mezzanine. If you look at the Public Works garage here in Wheeling, The upstairs office space is technically a mezzanine when that building was built. But if you look at the building and you go in there, a layperson, they look at it and go, it's a two-story building. So it's a code terminology. I think you were thinking of like in an industrial facility where you have storage mezzanines. It's not quite that.
Okay.
So, and I'm, from the perspective of it being sprinkled, that's not a plan commission, concern. Though you've pointed it out, and it would have to be code, and it would have to, that would have to be resolved before any occupancy, or whatever, I would assume occupancy. But I guess where I'm going with this is that you based, the calculations that you performed were based upon this floor plan.
Correct.
So the floor plan, if the floor plan changes, it could conceivably change, well, it would change the calculations that you would perform to make the determination whether they needed this sprinkled or not.
Correct.
Okay. That then would impact the plan commission, the floor plan. Because that's what goes before the village board. So, Mr. Shapiro, what I'm getting at is, again, in these conversations, you know, you can go back and talk to the Omni team as to what has to change or what possibly, and if this is the plan that's needed in order to perform the services, then that's a question of the sprinklers or not. And that's not something that the Plan Commission we're invested from the standpoint that it's got to abide by all our fire code. That's our investment, and we don't approve, disapprove on any of that stuff. The assumption is that that's going to be done. So, again, the floor plan impacts us because that's in our packet, and that you have to make those determinations.
It's an important issue, certainly for the village, fire department, and
Right.
for Omni, in so many ways.
Right.
So, you know, earlier you made that suggestion and cleaning this up or looking at the floor plan again. We'd like to take advantage of that opportunity and come back,
Right.
hopefully at your next meeting. And I think there's some other things we'd like to show, bike racks, for example, make it perhaps the site
Right.
plan a little bit clearer. So we will do those things. And we will show both the interior and exterior in response to some of these comments. So if we could come back, we'll have some
good.
additional information for you.
And so we've pointed that out, so that's good. But I actually have a couple of other questions. Commissioner Powers alluded to the landscape plan, a landscape plan. And the architect readily admitted that he's not a landscape architect, and I understand that. But what we don't have is a landscape plan. We have the rain garden, which is great, but we don't have any type of plan for the front. The existing, bushes that are there, they look old and tired, and you've got a dead tree there. And maybe they're not, but when I drove by there the other day and went into the parking lot, they looked pretty old and tired. And upgrading that would make that building look a lot nicer, from the standpoint of, it's on Wolf Road, a lot of traffic there, okay? So a detailed landscape plan would be very beneficial. And then, I don't know if that site was ever irrigated, but you should look to see if it's irrigated.
I believe the staff report now it could change based upon a new landscape plan, but I believe the staff report indicated that as it was submitted, irrigation was not necessary or appropriate, but we'll look at that.
Right. I didn't see the word not necessarily appropriate, but I think the question was we should ask if it was irrigated. So If something is inappropriate, I'd like to know.
I certainly don't
I
want to
think the
alarm
rain
anybody.
gardens
The rain
are,
garden didn't need to be irrigated.
Yeah, the rain garden didn't need, because that's obviously
right.
The
a
new
rain
landscape
garden.
area, rain garden should not be irrigated due to
Right,
its function.
rain-
Okay,
yeah,
so,
okay.
we get it.
We don't put inappropriate things in our,
No, no.
so, okay. So that, and then you alluded to the fencing around the electrical. Is that going to be replaced also? Okay. It wasn't obvious. I don't think it was obvious to me.
Sure.
I think there actually is a note on that,
Okay.
site plan that says that
Right.
that will be rebuilt as well.
Okay. So there were, so to, and Brooke, Commissioner Johnson brought up the ingress and egress on that, and the architect talked about the reasoning, and to Commissioner Johnson's point, it seems to me that having that exit right there would probably, it would seem to me to be, cause more of an issue than keeping it as it is. I don't know, and I don't know what you used as your determination to change that. If you could ground that in fact, it would be very helpful.
We didn't do a traffic study
No,
for
I
this.
know.
We looked at really the proximity of that apron to Wolf Road. And our feeling was that any southbound traffic coming in, if that was an entrance apron, that's a pretty tight maneuver to make that. You have to know that you have to continue further west to the other apron. And then if you're coming northbound on Wolf Road, make the left turn, you pretty much see that with signage in it would be an exit-only signage at that location. Our feeling was that for doing this maneuver, reversing the angled parking, that you come to basically a stop position at the property line and you see what the traffic is from Capri and Wolf before you actually go out onto Capri.
I understand. I drove into that parking lot the other night, and logically, I just went right into that spot. Now, granted,
Okay.
there's no signs or anything,
Yep.
but that was first entrance, I'm going in.
Okay.
And I would probably think even if there was a sign there, I'd probably do it. And I don't do things illegal too often, but
Not still admit.
You can ask Kyle.
Kyle,
Your thoughts?
yeah, your thoughts on this? Is that something that you can evaluate for them to find out? And I agree, we don't need a traffic study here, but is it something that possibly engineering can look at?
The only concern that that was brought up is that the tight turn from Wolf Road into that entrance there, but I think just by looking at it, the radius would not be too sharp to accommodate a vehicle such as a car or van. I personally would like that would be better as an entrance than an exit, just because, for the reasons that were mentioned. But if you want some sort of analysis done, engineering could probably help you out with that.
I think we'll take it under, the comments under advisement, and
Okay.
we'll review that
Great.
situation.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you. So a couple of things that I heard, I don't know if you have them written down, Brooke, but the striping and dimensions, those should be on the site plan?
Yes.
I think that's what you would ask for, and they're not. And then also the 4 drains?
Yes, wherever those drains are going to be expelling water, we need to know the locations of those, because based on the drainage now, it goes from the building, overland flow, out to Capri Terrace. There's no storm structures on site. So if the, rain garden is going to discharge in the location that's proposed, it's going to go over the sidewalk and then into the street. So we want to make sure that everything drains properly.
You need the location of
Yeah.
those drains now?
Oh, Not right now. I
No.
mean, before, that can be handled in final engineering.
Right,
probably.
that's a final detail
Yeah.
that's handled at permit. We don't need them to provide that level of detail right now, I don't think so.
It'd be nice to have it. But, okay,
It would
that's fine.
It would slow them down if they have to get an
That's true.
engineer
Okay.
involved right now.
Understood. Okay, great, okay. And then I think, Mr. Shapiro, you talked about the floor plan revisions, landscape plan, detail on the fencing, specifics in the plan. Is there anything else, Brooke?
Bicycle parking,
Oh, yeah.
the rusted doors shall be repainted. Identify the proposed tree species and sizes.
Landscape.
Is it just a consideration of adding or upgrading the landscaping along Dundee Road? Because if they're not making changes, I don't see why they need a new landscape plan. If they could just specify the tree species and sizes, and then as they already have provided a nice plant list, if we limit the rain garden species mix to only these plants identified, I think personally that's adequate. But if you want a landscape plan with specific species and numbers, quantities, we can require that as well.
The rain garden doesn't concern me as much as the front of the building does. I mean, the rain garden is a rain garden that you're going to plant. I don't think you need, I agree with you, I don't think you need to know the number of, but we've got a building in front of us that should have a landscape plan. I'm sorry, it should have a landscape.
Well, they have a,
They have a rain garden,
they
garden.
have
Okay,
this. This is their site plan / landscape plan / lighting plan.
yep, we need a landscape plan.
Okay.
Again,
And so, but my question is, do they need to provide additional landscaping, or should they own, is it adequate for them just to identify what they have?
they should identify what they have, but if they can add landscaping, add landscaping. I don't see that as an issue. I really don't.
Mr. Chairman, I kind of agree with you. It looks tired to me.
It does, yeah. Right.
Mr. Chairman, in fact.
And we have, and let me assure you, Mr. Shapiro, we have seen hand-drawn landscape plans that are very, very good. We've seen them that are very, very bad, but we've seen them that have been very, very good. So, if it comes with detail as to what's in them, the quantities in there, if you're going to change that, and really look at that, look at the front of the building. I mean, that's the front of the building that everybody sees. And the low-growing evergreens, whatever they are just really tired looking. And you've got a nice looking building there.
I think you anticipated my question, and what I think I heard you say, Mr. Chairman, was that the landscape plan needs to show what you're talking about, but it doesn't have to be anything like super sophisticated.
You've got a small space there.
Okay, thank you.
And I think we have examples of landscape plans. We have examples of landscape plans that are hand-drawn that are really good. Okay, but it doesn't have that. So, and staff will help in any manner. Okay. Ron, anything else?
Nope, that was all we had. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion to table?
We would need to continue to a
I
date
always get that
certain.
confused.
So our next meeting is August 11th, that's in 2 weeks. But you have a lot of work to do. So how long do you need? Because we would need the plans in advance by at least 10 days of the hearing date.
Yeah, August 11th would be a little too tight for us.
Right. How about August 25th?
As long as you wish me a happy anniversary, that would be fine.
Oh, okay.
I was here on my birthday 2 weeks ago, so
Well, happy birthday.
thank you. I think you can be here for your anniversary.
August 25th, it is. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Shapiro.
I'll make that motion to continue to the date of August 25th.
Second?
Motion made by Commissioner Powers, second by Commissioner Johnson. Roll call.
Commissioner Powers votes yes. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Saku?
Yes.
Commissioner Zangaro?
Yes.
Chairman Rafato?
Yes. And just as an aside, you've got a very nice plan here. It's working. Just want to say that, okay? Do you have anything? Mr. Shapiro, they have something for you that probably has the information that you've probably have written down. No, that's fine. Ready for the next one? Calling docket number 2016-17. Blooming Minds, 581 through 583 North Wolf Road, special use site plan approval of a daycare center. Mr. Secretary.
Docket number 2016-17. I apologize for the pronunciation of your name. Olga Kamanachek?
I'm trying, don't apologize.
That's okay.
It took you a while.
I just gave you fair warning. President of Blooming Minds Academy is seeking special use site plan approval as required under Chapter 19-05 Mixed Use and Overlay Districts, Chapter 19-10 Use Regulations, Chapter 19-12 Site Plan Approval Requirements and associated sections to operate a daycare center and recreational and instructional facility at 581 to 583 North Wolf Road, Wheeling, Illinois. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Brooke,
I have no comments right now.
will you be the only one speaking tonight?
I will be, yes.
Okay, so would you raise your right hand? You swear the testimony you give tonight to be the truth?
I swear.
Great. And if you could state your name and your business address for our secretary, that'd be great.
Sure, it's Olga Hamitronik, and the address is 581 North Wolf Road in Wheeling.
I like the way you said it.
Okay, so if you can, and don't be nervous, you've been before us a lot,
I'm so
so
afraid of this.
Relax, it's okay.
relax, it's fine.
Thanks.
So if you can explain what you want to do to us, and then we will ask you questions.
Sure, so I started leasing the adjacent space, which is 583 North Wolf Road, and my parents that come to my place, they've been asking me to offer daycare services for a while, but I didn't have an opportunity because my current space was too small. And now that I have this adjacent space, I could offer them daycare services in 3 of my rooms. So I thought it would be, and the thing is, if I have an opportunity to, if children have an opportunity to stay for more than 3 hours at the facility, I have to be licensed by DCFS. So I thought if I have to be licensed, I might as well offer them 3 rooms for daycare services, and then use other rooms for tutoring services. So a combination.
So, anything else to add?
Not really. Mr. Antor suggested there was with the playground, there was a manhole for the, in the back, and so he suggested to exclude it from the playground, which we have adjusted
Okay,
right away.
is that on the plans?
Yes.
Okay, great.
That's shown, here's the manhole, and now they've placed the fencing outside of that area.
Cool. Okay, great. Anything else?
There was also a suggestion about having a special place for bicycles for my teachers, and I asked my teachers, and the majority of my teachers right now, they have kids who they bring with them. So
only one teacher doesn't have a kid, so I asked her if she would bike. And she said, no, she lives in Mount Prospect, so she doesn't want to use a bicycle.
This is a public hearing. Is there anybody that wishes to speak on this matter?
Yes, there was.
Please raise your hand. Do you swear the testimony you give tonight to be the truth?
I do.
And name and business address?
My name is Rob Cook. I'm with Biomist. We're their next-door neighbor on their west side.
Okay. Comments?
My comment is that sometimes it's hard to do business because of the sounds that are emanating from her facility.
Can you speak into the
Microphone.
Sometimes it's hard to conduct business when music and children are screaming next door, and I would ask that they put up sufficient sound deadening materials so that I can be on the phone and talk to my customers without being interrupted.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I never even realized. So we'll definitely put something on the wall.
Okay.
Sure, yeah, no, thank you for saying.
If there's no one else wishing to speak, we'll start with Commissioner Zangara.
Thank you. I guess the only question I have, because I mean, I think I saw this last time when you came with the fence area, I saw it was already expanded. How long would daycare be there? Because I see a little word there called kitchenette. Does that cause any problems? Having food? Or?
As far as I understand it, food is required for daycare services through DCFS.
And
So-
we're not going to cook there, we'll just bring in the food. So we'll service it, but we have to have a kitchenette by rule.
Okay, but I mean, a kitchenette, what they have is sufficient.
Yes,
Okay.
the health officer has reviewed the plans and finds everything to be satisfactory.
Perfect. Otherwise, I think everything's great, and besides maybe if you do the sound, which is an easy fix to do, I wish you luck. I'm
Thank you.
glad to see you expanding.
I wish I had known about the sound earlier, but I'll take care of it, definitely.
But that's all I have.
And, and to that point, I didn't catch the gentleman's name. He was in here in a flash. If you go and talk to him and see, how you can be a good neighbor. Not that you're a bad neighbor, you didn't know.
Yeah.
I would have thought somebody would have come over and knocked on the door and said, hey, can you lower Mickey Mouse Clubhouse or whatever? And I'm sure you would have. So,
Yeah, for sure.
right, exactly. You've always got a smile on your face. How could you say no to somebody? So you will. So, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. So just to continue on that one, that was the neighbor to the
I was
west?
just thinking the same thing.
So he's directly
Yes.
against where you're at now, not the other one? Okay. Yeah, I'm sure there's something you can do relatively easy to deaden that sound. The only other issue I had was the fencing for the playground. I would like to see it not extend past a line that, along the south wall, so that, because right now you're actually further south with that southeast corner than the wall is.
You're saying this, this
Up,
line?
up.
By the manhole cover.
If you come straight down that wall,
Oh, this line?
yeah, see the way it's sticking out beyond
Here?
the line of the wall? And if you go to that picture with that one, you can see how traffic just kind of turns right there. So just to eliminate any chance of that, or reduce any chance of that getting hit, because it will probably, I would just say don't go beyond the line of that south wall.
Okay.
Engineering, any?
Engineering actually proposed, the way they have it set up now, I agree with you. If they had it lined up with the wall, that'd be fine. One thing we are concerned about is these bollards and fence posts that have to be augured into the ground. We have the manhole there, and the sanitary sewer goes, in relation to this image here, it goes straight down. So we do not want these bollards or fence posts damaging our sanitary sewer, because to my knowledge, they are village-owned. So with that being said, we'd like to have the, the space, if that is the configuration you'd like to go with, we would like to see that the spacing of the fence posts be maximized over the sanitary sewer to provide the most clearance possible. Or you can avoid the sanitary sewer altogether if you just kind of chopped off that corner. But engineering is, okay with either configuration as long as you provide us with all the details. Bollard cross-sectionals that show how deep it's going down, specifics to the fence, spacing, how deep the sanitary sewer is, beneath the surface, all that needs to be taken into consideration.
And that'll all be done at permitting anyways,
Yeah.
right? Okay. That's all I had, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Powers.
Nice to see you back.
Thank you.
It's you really got, it sounds like you're doing a great business. The only question is, I haven't been back there, to be honest with you. The fence, did you ever put in the other fence?
No.
Okay, so that you're just going to continue the same fence, correct? Okay. Just curious, so you're running like, you run like an educational center there right now, right? So it's like you have to apply to DCFS to now tell them you're running a daycare center and they have to approve that? Is that how it is?
Yes.
Okay, so do they need to see the plans all or no?
Well, I invited the lady from
It's
DCFS.
fine.
I invited the lady from DCFS to come in and tell me whether I can even do it. I can even apply for daycare with my facility, and she said yes, but you need first to apply for the village, do all the changes. Then once all the changes are done, then I apply for the DCFS license, and then after 90 days, they will consider it, whether they'll give me a permit or not.
And I got a question, quick question for staff. Brooke, do they, because they run now, do they have like one address is for educational use, and now what they're asking for a separate, different special use for daycare? And
It
it's
will be combined into one unit, right? Because there are both tutoring and childcare facilities straddling the units. And so it will just become one unit, and I guess it will have one address, which we will need to determine if it's 581 or 583.
So, I mean, so how is the special use word? Is it just like a classification on how that property can be used? So it's like right now, it's an educational?
So right now, they're expanding or amending their current special use,
Perfect.
which is for the tutoring facility.
Okay.
They're amending that to expand their site plan, to expand their floor area.
Perfect.
But they're also applying for an additional special use for childcare facilities.
Okay. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Sacco?
Yes, thank you. Congratulations. I'm excited. I remember we talked about this the first time you came in about potentially expanding. I'm curious, what was the use of the space that you're taking over now beforehand? I remember there was a business there before. What were?
Yeah, it was a ballroom dance studio.
Okay. And the point I'm trying, and that's what I was saying, the gentleman that mentioned about the noise is west of you, so, theoretically speaking, the noise that, the new facility might not necessarily be adding any noise, but if you could address that, we've all said, but that's, just want to point that out. I had the same DCFS question. If you remember before, a lot of daycares in my family, I'm no expert, but I do know that there have been issues before where DCF comes in, you get one, assessment of the plan, and then it could change. I mean, I'm just saying, be cautious with, that's what I'm worried about is things changing consistently. You're going to make some changes, we approve it, they come back. So do your due diligence with DCFS, make sure they have all, everything they need, because we've had problems in the past.
Thank you.
So
I've heard. It's very difficult.
yeah, I know. The other question I had was as far as combining. So there are two entrances now, one for each building. So what is the plan for layout and how they'll be, will people come into one door now, or how are you planning on doing that?
I think for security purposes, it will be best if they come through one door, because then there will be a person who will greet them, and then the other door will just lock. It will stay there for emergency purposes, but we'd prefer to use just one door.
Okay, are you planning on using something like ProCare or some sort of security system when people walk in?
Yes.
And maybe that would have like a security door in between for where the kids are from when they come into one of the doors?
So I was hoping we'll use the code.
Right.
But then also a person in the front still to see in person who comes in.
Okay, that was the only concern I had. Thank you.
My only, it's a good plan. My only question is around, I didn't quite understand the fence and moving that as far as the sewers. And it's the bollards, as long as they're not over the sewer system, right?
And the fence posts, too.
And the fence posts.
Yes, but there's two separate aspects to this, the actual fence itself, and then on the outside of the fence, we're going to have bollards. The bollards are to protect the fence against automobiles. Both of them have to be augured into the ground, probably 42 inches down to the frost line, maybe more. And with that being said, I'm not sure how deep the sanitary sewer is, but if it's the end of it's the beginning of the line, so it's probably pretty shallow. So we want to make sure that nothing,
So the fence could conceivably move?
Yes. And
Yes.
so in the staff report, I have a condition of approval that would allow them to go forward with a little bit of leeway. The suggested condition is the exact location of the fence may be adjusted to avoid utility conflicts, provided there is a minimum drive aisle clearance of 12 feet.
That's, okay. And that's, okay. Is everybody okay with that condition?
Yes, I assume you know which way the sanitary line is going to run, and you'll make sure that you're satisfied where the fence is going to be put in.
Yeah, when they come in for a permit for the fence and the bollards, that will be taken into consideration. We'll look into that in further depth.
Great. And do we have the materials of the fence documented?
There's a fence detail right here.
Yeah. But I thought there was some question as to,
The color of the fence is not identified on this plan.
I thought just to leave it as originally white,
White.
just so.
as originally,
So the last, I think
Yeah.
she's referring to the last time
Yes.
this came for
Yeah.
review.
Right.
So if everyone's in agreement with white, I'll just write that as a condition of
yes,
approval.
that's fine. I have nothing else. When you're done with that, Brooke, if you could just list the conditions.
Okay. The exact location of the fence may be adjusted to avoid utility conflicts, provided there is a minimum drive aisle clearance of 12 feet. Additional insulation shall be added to reduce noise for neighboring tenants. The fence shall be white, and I don't know if there's consensus on prohibiting the extension of the wall, of the extension of this fence beyond this wall.
Well, I guess it would depend, and that's what I was getting at, I guess it would depend upon the location of the sanitary sewer.
Yes, but we could still limit it
Right. It
to
would-
not go beyond
Yeah.
You can add both
A line.
conditions.
Yeah, not go
If
beyond.
you want.
Right, I think that would make sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of nodding.
Excuse me, Chairman Fratto.
Yes.
I'm not, I was out of the room with the other petitioner. What is the issue about the fence at that location, just out of curiosity? Where you said extending it?
Oh, my point was just, can you put up that snow picture again? You kind of see how traffic coming around there.
Mm-hmm.
So if the furthest bollard out is going to be beyond the line of that wall, it seems like it would be more
Prone to being
more
hit.
prone to get
Right.
hit.
From the the fire department staff review, the clear width of that roadway has to be 12 feet. We would prefer 13, but it has to be 12 feet, including the bollards, which I think would address what your concern is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm saying just don't go beyond a line parallel to that
Right, because
wall.
the fire department connection for the building is right there in that
You
corner.
guys will hit it.
And the fire, and we've got some people that would. And the fire hydrant is right there in the tree line.
I think we can put that
And
Okay,
that's
great.
what I was just wanted to clarify, is that
Yes.
you weren't going into my fire lane.
No, we're on the same page.
No, we're,
Okay.
yeah, we're trying
Thank
to
you.
move it, make your fire lane nice and wide.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have that one? too?
Yes.
Okay, great. So do I hear a motion on docket number 2016-17?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Zangara made the motion, seconded by Commissioner Isaku. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Zangara?
Yes.
Commissioner Saku?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers votes yes. Chairman Rafato?
Yes. Motion to close?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
Good luck. Thank you.
You have something to sign.
Thank you.
Don't, just, you can come up here, you just have something.
She's not excited at all.
Do we make you nervous?
Yes. I'm super nervous.
You don't have to.
Don't worry about it.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. If you could just sign this one, right there. And you can have that one.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you. Good luck. Does she know when she has to? Don't worry about it. Okay, I would like to take a 5-minute break. 5 minutes. Putting it on my Calling docket number 2000-15 Dundee Commons, 430 West Dundee Road, special use site plan approval of a preliminary planned unit development for retail use. Mr. Secretary.
Docket number 2016-15, Bill Hine and Associates, applicant on behalf of 400 West Dundee Wheeling LLC owner is seeking special use site plan approval of a preliminary plan unit development for a retail development in the MXT transit-oriented mixed-use district as required under Chapter 19-05 Mixed Use and Overlay Districts, Chapter 19-09 Plan Unit Developments, Chapter 19-10 Use Regulations, and Chapter 19-12 Site Plan Approval Requirements and associated sections. The subject property consists of the vacant parcel at 430 West Dundee Road, which is approximately 2.96 acres at the northeast corner of Dundee Road and Northgate Parkway. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Jones.
I'd like to give a brief overview and some staff comment before inviting the petitioner forward. As exciting as this project is, especially in its proximity to the Wheeling Town Center and the new Northgate Crossing apartment development and Village Hall, we want to ensure its viability and its success. Similar to the Town Center project review process, staff has some initial concerns with traffic flow that need to be addressed before this review can move forward. Staff hasn't had a chance to review this plan with the petitioner's traffic, engineering, or land use consultants. We must ensure that these consultants are reviewing the same plans that the PC, the Plan Commission, is reviewing. As it stands, the site plan that was used for the basis of the traffic study is not consistent with the other plans that we have. This is the plan from the traffic study. This is the site plan that's used throughout the rest of this review. The petitioner's consultants need to address staff's concerns from the staff report and make adjustments to the plans as necessary. And it is expected that they will not be able to completely address our concerns this evening. We assume that they will need to go back, do some heavy analysis, make some adjustments to the plans, and come back ready to fully address the concerns of staff and the Plan Commission. Now I'd like to go into a little more detail about staff's concerns regarding the functionality of the traffic flow. This exhibit highlights our major concerns. First of all, this access at the southern end of the site is a dead-end lot. So anyone who accesses this parking area and finds that all the spots are taken, they need to back up. They would not be able to sufficiently turn around because there's no access out. This purple line represents a drive-through. Our second concern is that at each location of the drive-through, at each building, the drive-through exits into a parking stall. And so here, you may have a conflict where someone who is backing out of a parking spot is going to possibly hit someone going through the drive-through lane. That happens here as well. Someone backing out of this parking stall may back up into the drive-through lane. Third, we're concerned with this jog from the main drive, access drive from Dundee Road. It just causes a little bit of confusion as someone enters the site and is trying to find a viable route. Four, this is a very huge concern to us. This is the T intersection of this site, and there is a lot going on here. Everyone's going through this intersection to enter either drive-through here or here. They're also entering the intersection if they're coming from Northgate Parkway. They're entering if they're coming from Dundee Road. And so there's going to be a lot of congestion here. They may cause backups onto Dundee. It could cause backups for people who are trying to access the drive-through lanes or just to circulate the lot to find parking. Number 5, we're concerned that pedestrians would not be able to access the site very easily. You couldn't just park your car in one parking spot and go to both buildings safely. So, because you'd be traversing various drive aisles, drive-through lanes, as well as these main collector roads. And lastly, as I've kind of touched on already, the on-site collectors, which are these orange areas, are prone to congestion, and so we don't even know what all the full analysis is at this point, but our assumptions are there's going to be a lot of congestion, but we would like to see a full traffic study that is based upon the current site plan and not this site plan, which is inconsistent with the rest of the petitioner's proposal. So we would like to see the traffic plan reflect the conditions here if this is what is in fact being proposed. That's our major concern at this time. We have some other concerns that are highlighted in the staff report, especially regarding parking. But we think what is driving the functionality of this site is traffic, and we want a workable site where where there will be repeat customers. And we're concerned that if this is built and people are as confused as we are when they're trying to navigate, that they will not come back to this site, and we want a successful development here.
Thank you. Petitioners come forward. I don't know who, if you want to come forward now. This, I assume you're all going to speak on this matter?
Right.
Right. So if you would all raise your right hands, you swear testimony you give tonight to be the truth? Yes. Great, thank you. So, Mr. Hine, as you come up, if everybody could just give their name and business addresses, that'd be great. But based upon what Ms. Jones just talked about, the approach I guess I would like to take is, well, actually, I'd like to discuss with you. She brought up a number of concerns, okay? So I'm not certain if you would like to discuss those now or give us an overall view of your plans. I would like to see an overall view of your plans, and then we get into the specifics of the concerns from staff.
We would like to give you an overall view of the entire plan.
Great.
And then we can address some of the concerns that they have relative to the flow of traffic on the site as we do that.
Right.
And I think it is probably the best way to attack.
Okay. And in the staff plan, in the staff review, there were, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 17 items that require discussion and clarification. And that was on page 9 of the, and some of those, are parking related and traffic related, but why don't we start with an overall view of the plans that you have?
Okay. Yes, we got this this afternoon about 12 o'clock, this, right here.
When was it?
You got what?
I received this at 12 o'clock this afternoon.
Was it?
This is the request for,
Okay.
this,
On Friday, I emailed you that as well?
I'm sorry?
On Friday, I emailed you the staff report as well.
You sent this to me on Friday?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I did not. Either I missed your email, okay, which I may do, okay, but I'm saying for the record, I'm seeing this since noon today,
Okay.
Okay,
okay?
okay, great, thank you.
I did get your email on the request I made for what slides you were going to be using this evening,
Yes.
okay?
Good.
But that's neither here nor there. I mean, it's very self-explanatory. It seems like we're having a little bit of a situation here where we were directed by you folks last time we were here, that you'd like to have a traffic study done, okay? And with that, we hired KLOA, and we supplied you with the 81-page study on, I believe, July 14th, and you got a summary, executive summary on it to make it a lot easier for you to just hit the highlights on it. So that being said, there's a bunch of different things that came up, and I did notice that after we got this, and we pushed real hard to get this thing done by the traffickers in due time for this meeting. We really had to push this guy. And I just noticed about 4:30 this afternoon, because I went to the guts of this whole thing, that he was using the wrong traffic flow here, okay? So, but in all reality, okay, the traffic flow that and the type of study that you're requiring now is not your standardized traffic study, okay? You're asking for more detail on the site itself, okay?
I believe, Mr. Hine, that what's in, and I realize that traffic flows are the anterior streets, Northgate, Dundee, but I believe that what happens in here, inside this 2.96 acres, impacts what happens on Dundee and Northgate.
That's correct.
And I would, so that's why we're, I don't think we're asking for anything different in a traffic study, except that they use the right detail of the site plan to perform the traffic study. Are we asking for anything different?
No.
I asked, when we ask for a traffic study, we ask for a traffic study. I don't know what goes into it, but if they don't have the right site plan of the flow of inside here as to what could go in and out onto Northgate or Dundee, then it's probably an incorrect traffic study, is my guess. Is that a correct assumption? Is it correct?
I think that'd be correct, and part of the traffic study does mention or discuss briefly on-site circulation evaluation, which is what we're talking about, and we just have some questions that we'd want them to respond to regarding that on-site circulation, which may be addressed by looking at the updated site plan, and we just want to make sure they can respond to them, because it is part of the traffic study evaluation.
So let me pose another question as we're going through this. This is a dialogue. When this, in previous petitioners, has this traffic study company, and we've seen them come before us on many other occasions, have they talked to you? Do they come and talk to staff about this, or are they just going?
I've had no contact with them.
No, but in previous ones, do they?
Sometimes they do.
Yeah, okay. I want to make sure that, you know, if we're not doing something right from the staff perspective, then, you know, maybe that needs to be fixed also, but didn't have, in this specific one, there was no contact. Okay, great. I'm sorry, Mr. Hine, please.
No problem. When we were here for the concept review, there was concern about, to alleviate the concern of the dead end, in case all the parking spots were filled, a dedicated turnaround is now showing this in the site plan, okay? And we were trying to address every single item that you brought up at that particular time. And we were using that like for our punch list, okay? So, I think this new plan here addresses those situations relative to dead ends, the highest and best use for this piece of property, keeping with the other guidelines that we have to for green space as close as we can. We came within 1%, 24% versus 25, and we tried to do the best we could with the site because of the vast amount of comp storage and stuff that we have to put on the site. There are 2 buildings that are involved in this site. We gave you elevations on those buildings, so on and so forth. But I knew the big concern was going to be not so much the elevations and the exact building, so on and so forth, but it was going to be the actual site plan. And there seemed to be a lot of concern about the traffic flow on this piece. Well, we also are concerned about the traffic flow because if we don't get it right, we're not going to have a viable product here. And when we go to our lenders and show them these site plans and stuff, and they're not happy with the way we laid this thing out, and they come to us and say, hey, this thing isn't going to work, you know? Sorry, Joe, no dough. Okay? That's what we don't want to happen. You folks asked us to take and move the ingress, egress off of Northgate as far north as possible. And we tried that. We even discussed the issue about being able to put the road in the floodway. Well, there's a 5-foot drop from our property up to where it would come in by the bridge. No way can we put that ingress, egress up there. Hager Engineering did the engineering for us and everything. And because of the fact that we do have a contract to purchase the lot next to us there, and we also have the 270 building now, and we're working on other properties, that we were looking for a way to keep the traffic flow in this whole complex, wherever we go, and not bring it onto Dundee Road. Because we got only one ingress, egress on this place, and that's at the corner of Dundee. Anybody going eastbound in the morning, and this traffic study proves it, that they are going to have to be able to get back onto Dundee Road. And to shove them back onto Dundee Road, off of the Dundee Road ingress, egress, and making a left turn with no traffic signalization is ludicrous. So,
Could you show that with a pointer possibly, so I can see what he's talking about? Brooke?
It's just talking about turning out here on Dundee Road.
Okay.
Turning left.
you do have a copy of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think what I'm going to do at this particular point in juncture, I'm going to have Mr. Anderson come up here from our engineering department and explain how he came up with this concept here. Sure. Because he's responsible for it. Mike?
Hi, my name is Mike Anderson with Hager Engineering.
offices at 100 East State Parkway in Schaumburg. So kind of big picture for this site and access from where we were last time. There's an existing site access on Dundee Road, an existing curb cut there, which we're proposing to keep in the same location. On Northgate Parkway, the access is in about the middle of the site, as Mr. Hyde said. As you go further north on Northgate Parkway, the road bridges up or rises up to meet the bridge, and that Northgate Parkway is several feet above our site, which just causes a topography problem with that connection. And so our access on Northgate is about as far north as we can get it to work. I know that in the staff report, there were concerns about the access location on Northgate Parkway and having left turns out from the site onto Northgate. That's something that we'd be happy to look at with staff. Staff has asked us for a site distance evaluation, which is a kind of a standard process to determine the safety of a left hand or any kind of turning movement, which we'll be happy to do. The traffic report that was prepared by KLOA did have the access to Dundee and Northgate Parkway in the approximate same locations as they presently are shown. So the differences in the traffic report we're talking about are primarily the internal circulation. In the report from KLOA, they did evaluate the proposed accesses onto Dundee and Northgate Parkway and found them to be of adequate level of service. Inside the site, so the access to Northgate Parkway, the kind of east-west primary street coming in, is proposed to continue east to service additional property that may become available. And so that's kind of the primary spine road coming in for east-west. I understand, in terms of the north-south, I understand that staff has concerns about the jog at Dundee, and that's something that we can certainly work with. We just, as Mr. Hines said, haven't had a whole lot of time to digest a lot of these comments. The concern about the multiple movements at the T intersection, which in all likelihood will turn into a full intersection as that leg is extended east. I think there are things we can do with those drive-throughs. It sounds like that's kind of the primary concern with staff, is to create some separation there. In terms of the dead-end parking, I know there was a fire department comment about about a maximum dead-end width of 150 feet for a parking area that we had to address. I think these two are kind of hand in hand, and we can look at shortening the length of this or providing full circulation for a fire truck to come through there. So while I understand staff has a lot of concerns about the circulation, I don't feel that it's anything that we can't overcome, and I don't think it's a major site plan modification that we're talking about. The ability to walk between from one parking lot to another building, I feel that's something that's pretty easily addressed with some pedestrian walkways and some traffic control through the site. So that's kind of the big picture of access through the site. Just to kind of put a bow on engineering, last time we were here, we didn't have any stormwater management shown on the property. We were looking to get that via credit through the Heritage Park system. Unfortunately, for the stormwater detention, for that to be feasible, the very large sewer needs to come up through the Wheeling Town Center site, and that is, the schedule for that is just not known at this time. And so it's not feasible for us to connect to it until it's in the ground. And so because that's not available, we're showing on-site detention here. and the on-site detention is a dry bottom basin along the east and north edge of the site. Because this site is within a shallow floodplain area, the detention requirements per the new MWRD ordinance are more strict. So there's, I think it's about an additional 40% additional storage volume that's required than in a normal site. That is all provided on site. The compensatory storage that the site requires, we are asking to be provided for within the Wheeling drainage ditch system that is part of Heritage Park. So the village has those credits. It's part of the engineering review to formally request that with calculations to support how much is needed, which we fully intend to do. And site utilities, the site has access to village water and sewer from both Dundee Road and Northgate Parkway. And so going through the list of items on the 17 items on staff, some of these I'll defer to the project architect. But in this list, number 2, to determine the purpose of the driving parking lanes adjacent to the drive-through lanes. So if we look at the southern building, the northern building there, or the southern, it's the drive-through lane, and then between the building and the drive-through lane is some additional pavement. That is just intended for off-hours loading area for the buildings. It's not intended for parking or drive aisles. It'd be probably clearer if we just stripe that off as no parking, but it is just for loading and unloading. Item 3, acknowledgement that a 3-way stop are required at the T intersection. We don't have a problem with that, and we'll do what we can to separate those drive-through lanes, working with staff on that. Number 4, discuss the left turn restriction to Northgate Parkway. That's what I mentioned previously. We'll do a site distance analysis with the engineering staff here. And if the results of that show that a left turn is not a safe movement there, then we won't be able to incorporate that. Number 5, discuss the reconfiguration of the Dundee access drive to 3 lanes. Right now it's shown as a width of 2 lanes for just 1 lane of traffic in and out. We certainly don't have a problem requesting from IDOT a 3rd lane there to accommodate safer movements. Number 6, request that the parking lot drive aisles also be increased from 24 to 25 feet in width. That's my mistake. We can easily accommodate a 25-foot width in lieu of the 24. Number 7 relates to the traffic study that we have discussed, and we will get that updated.
Just as an aside, so you mentioned the traffic study. So the traffic study we got in our packet had draft written all over it. Every page was draft. Now, that seemed odd until we got a newer traffic study just this week. So that's the kind of hurdles that we've run into.
Understood.
So just.
Understood. I'm going to skip down to number 15, request a turning radius analysis for fire apparatus access roads. We certainly will provide that. 16, I kind of touched on, is the fire access route along the south side of Building 1 being more than 150 feet, and we'll work with the fire department to address that. The other items I'm going to defer. I don't know if you want us to go point by point to address these, or you want to go to questions.
If you could speak to them now, that then if the commissioners have questions, then we can, discuss those.
I'm Hernando Moreno from Chicago Workshop Architects, 27740 North Hickory in Island Lake. And I'll go over the architectural issues. The location of the bicycle parking, I'll have the landscape architect present a drawing, but that is going to be located on Village of Wheeling property in the area of the Vest Pocket Park. We're going to expand the paving area there, and we are also going to put the bicycle parking there so that, it just made sense with the sidewalk circulation that then you could then park and enjoy that pavement area there. Let's see, traffic studies. I think a big concern that you guys have that we've been going back and forth on is the parking requirements in terms of what we're doing, because we really don't have a tenant yet, and it's sort of nebulous as to how much restaurant we're going to have and how much retail we're going to have. It's very speculative as to how much parking we're really going to need. And so the comment that we should have something similar to Weston as a guide, I think is a good one. And I think that's something that we should incorporate. And then once we have that framework to work with, then we can design around it, and everyone, I think, will be happy with that.
So to that, and I was going to bring that up before I actually had the commissioners talk about it. On page 5, staff of the, starting on page 4, actually, staff goes into a couple of recommendations, a couple of scenarios. And Brooke, maybe if you can explain those to the petitioners, that would be helpful. One was the Weston PUD. Oh, well, that's worked out. But
we're just trying to create some certainty where we, like you said, we're uncertain at this time who the actual tenants will be, or although you've proposed 2 drive-through restaurants, but we don't know the size or intensity of those restaurants. And so to ensure that this site will be functional and that there will be enough parking to make a successful development, we're trying to come up with some ideas to create a framework where there's enough parking at this preliminary PUD stage that we don't have to go back later and give a variation for parking when the special uses for the restaurants come in.
I think that makes a lot of sense, yeah.
So we talk about the Weston framework. So at the Weston site, instead of using the parking requirements as outlined in the zoning code, we use a completely different requirement, which is 10 parking stalls required for every 1,000 square feet of restaurant space. So that makes it very easy to determine how many spaces are required. It's not based upon number of employees or number of seats. It's just based on square footage. In Northbrook, they do something a little bit different. They say for larger developments, larger shopping centers, that you're allowed to have up to 10% of the entire shopping center maybe for restaurant uses. And at that small percentage of no more than 10%, then we're only going to charge you 4 parking stalls per 1,000 square feet, because it's a larger development and they can absorb the parking there. But if it goes beyond more than 10% of the space is dedicated to restaurant uses, then they have to allow for a lot more parking for those restaurants. And so At that point, 10% is the tipping point. Then they apply a 14 parking stall per 1,000 square feet of restaurant area to that plan. And so that gets, it's a little bit different. It's hard to find that exact number. But that's something we could think about here. Do you want to limit the total number of restaurants or total percentage of restaurant space? That might help create some certainty. It's an option. Or maybe there's another option. There probably is in another community. Maybe your traffic consultants have.
Okay, well,
run
we'll
across
see what
that.
we can do, and then we'll communicate what's the best way to deal with
Sure.
that one. Prior to this hearing, we did submit plans, complete plans, floor plans, and elevations of all sides of the buildings. So we can, next go around, just resubmit that, or it says here, discuss if elevation plans for all sides of each building are required at preliminary PUD. It wasn't required, so I just showed the front and the back, but we can also show the end caps, although if that's something that's, we presented that previously as well. I'm just saying,
Previously at the concept review?
yes, it's concept review.
We need all new plans for, this is the public
Okay,
hearing.
then we'll certainly, it's easy to generate that. And again, with the additional details for the next hearing, we'll actually also then bring material samples and all that stuff. So you'll have all that stuff. The rooftop units will not be seen at all. We have a 4-foot parapet wall, and the sight lines are such that you'll never see the rooftop. You'll never see the rooftop units.
Can you provide sightline drawings?
That was provided in the original, but I will
Great.
redo that again.
As far as parapet walls go, is there, I mean, I guess you would review that again, because I know we've had concerns about walls and.
When they get extremely high where you
Right.
don't have the ability to go
Exactly,
over them,
right.
or with like the aerial platform to put a ladder down to
Yeah,
get to the
so
roof.
just so.
All right, well, I'll,
Yeah.
okay. We won't make them too high.
It's the one thing I remember. I'm working hard on that.
All right. Okay, and the rest of the stuff is site stuff that we'll work with our civil engineer on. And I know you also had some landscape questions, so I'd like to have the landscape architect just go over some of that stuff.
Sure. You could have helped out me today.
Good evening. My name is William Elliott. I'm a landscape architect working out of 765 Old Mill Grove Road in Lake Zurich, Illinois. Would you like me to look at the first, those 3 items on page 9, or address the 4 items on page 6?
You can address the 4 items on page 6, and then we'll tie them into.
By the way, I have some large colored exhibits. If you would like me to find a place for them, I'd be happy to put them up.
Sure. Sure. I mean, because what will happen is the Plan Commission, if they have questions or comments, you can add them. We need easels. Pardon? Yeah, that's true. Yeah, this is kind of old school. You know, if you could, what you could do.
We have the plans, they're not in color, but they are overhead.
Right, so if you could just grab that wireless mic right there. Sure. And you can hold it and talk to it, that would be great.
Very good, thank you. All right, what we're looking at, maybe I'll just go over some of the basics and then address
Sure.
some issues.
That'd be great.
What we're looking at is a copy of the site plan, and I know that one of the questions was existing trees and how many to be removed. There are existing 13 trees. I believe there's 4 conifers, and the rest are deciduous trees, which include red maples and some Bradford pears. What we're looking at doing with the site plan is removing 9 of the 13, leaving 4. We'll leave 2 of the conifers, which actually wind up as kind of a parkway situation, and then we can leave 2 of the deciduous trees down here by the pocket park. I think that pretty well covers that. We know that there's just a lot of debris, large things like ash and cottonwood and that kind of thing on the east property line. There are some evergreens, large evergreens here on the south end. Those are pretty disreputable small arborvitae that have gotten oversized. They're not the tall types of the shrub variety, and they're about 6 feet tall now. They need to be removed. I think that's about it on that. Let's go here. On the site plan, I think I've got a total of 30-some trees. I've forgotten exactly how many. We can count them up. The 2 that are existing are here and here. The rest we're adding, so we're adding a good deal more than is originally located on site now. Tried to analyze and look at traffic flow and at the same time make it somewhat interesting from a standpoint of greening the site. The gray, of course, are the drive areas, and the white areas are just paved areas, which I believe down here we're looking at paving with perhaps like a paver of some kind. So it's not going to be just poured concrete. Our access to the pocket park, I've designed this small area. It's a couple hundred square feet with a winding path that goes around existing trees, the existing 4 conifers, perennials. There's a lot of daylilies on that corner, and just swing around it with a widening of the mouth into the public walk that will allow people to access either the park on the corner or continue north on Northgate. One thing I wanted to mention, because it's been brought up a few times, I have indicated right here on the north end of this little pocket park a small bike rack. Now, that's just a suggested location at a preliminary stage. One other thing that I've also noted is that my concern was as the drive-through parking exits, it goes right by that space. I wanted to somehow focus the entrance and exit at that pocket park into one place. So I've indicated a low railing along the drive on that pocket park with one opening. So that focuses for people to go in and out of one place so that so you don't get people spread out walking across traffic flow. Trying to look at the safety aspect. The difficult part in a typical commercial development is finding street trees or nice trees that will survive in limited soil environment. And that will be a challenge come the final drawing. These are preliminaries right now, and we've noted in some of these parking areas some understory plants. Could be, I think the suggestion was perennials, ground covers, flowering plants, and of course ornamental grasses. Those are easy to insert at a final stage. I'm a little reluctant to go with much in the way of perennials, perhaps a few. They're very high maintenance, and it's just difficult from a commercial standpoint, but we'll look at it. I noticed that the perennials around the public park in the corner are mostly daylilies, which don't require a whole lot of work, so we'll probably be looking at that kind of thing, that kind of plant. We will, in the final, define exactly what those flowering shrubs are, their heights. My concern, of course, in certain areas where visibility is an issue, that those plants don't get above the height of visibility sitting in a vehicle. So that's, we'll hopefully keep that proper vision screen open. The understory of a tree will be high enough that you won't have a break there. Instead of putting a tree right here on the end, lining them up, I wanted to leave this area open because of the situation that Ms. Jones brought up, that there will be a lot of traffic happening there, and I wanted to keep it open as much as possible into a sort of kind of a greenway. And there's also street light in that area, so I wanted to make sure there was plenty of light washing the area and not have a tree interfering with it. Do you have any questions for me?
Well, I'm sure we'll get to that, but,
Okay.
so, but thank you. I'm sure we'll have some questions. Is there anything else, Mr. Hine, that you want to discuss before I turn it over to the Plan Commission? Thank you.
I think they've covered it pretty much to give you an overview on what they've been doing for the last couple of months. You know, I want to just back to the traffic study just for a minute before we open it to the rest of your commissioners. This is a very small site. These particular people that have been doing this project for us know the area. They were hired for that reason, okay? They know of Town Center, they know of the different things that are happening in our community. Everything that they have said in their summary is that we're not causing a problem by putting this shopping center in place. We're not causing a problem by even the traffic flow that we're doing. They've got some good suggestions, okay? But in order to be a successful commercial area, we have to take advantage of the infrastructure that's in place. We all know that we've been having a problem with Northgate coming from Lake Cook Road in the early evening, late evenings, where we got traffic backed up all the way to Northgate Crossing. We know that. There was talk about painting over and putting another lane in for you got a right turn lane. Something's going to have to be done. You got a town center that's going to be developed pretty darn quick. But when you think about the proposed development only increases the traffic traversing this intersection, Dundee and Northgate, by approximately 2 to 3% during peak hours. The development generates traffic will not have a significant impact on the area roadways. Of course it's not. Providing access off Dundee Road and Northgate Parkway will be adequate in accommodating the development-generated traffic and will ensure that an efficient and flexible access is provided for both phases of the development. The drive-through lanes will provide stacking for 8 to 9 vehicles, which will be adequate in accommodating the projected peak demand of the drive-through operation. We know that it's important that we stack these cars up on our property and we don't have them hanging on Dundee Road like we got in some other areas of town on Milwaukee Avenue where we got drive-throughs. The proposed development will provide a sufficient number of parking spaces to accommodate the projected parking demand. So that's what we have as far as a traffic and impact study. And if you want us to go back and critique it and add more to it, you tell us what you want to add and what you want us to do, and we'll be more than happy to do it.
I personally would like to just ensure that that what they use to prepare the traffic study is the correct site plan. I don't think that's asking too much, and I don't know to ask for anything other than that. So they need to do the analysis on the correct site plan, and then we'll analyze it. That's all we can say.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. I don't think we've never asked for anything additional. So just as long as they're using the correct site plan, and we can be assured that it's not a draft, and that we get it in a timely manner, that's all we can ask for.
we've been very cognizant of trying to keep that access way to the properties to the east of us. And that's why you see the access road that we have in there as a temporary type situation. Love to have it up north further, but it's impossible to do. We might be able to take that and then swing it up that way when we get beyond the problem with getting up onto Northgate by the bridge with that 5-foot drop. So we'll work that out when we get there. Thank you very much.
All right, we'll start with Commissioner Powers.
Okay. I know one time there was talk about Community Boulevard going back to the ditch and going over it. That's pretty much not going to happen anymore because, as I heard it, there's a 5-foot drop and there's no way a road can go there, yet alone any kind of an exit from your property, right?
Well, not necessarily. We could go north when we stay on our property, but we're not going to be able to get onto Northgate from up there. We're going to have to do it from the entrance that we have here. But we would be able to go in a certain portion of in the floodway by the creek and follow it down to Community Drive someplace. Someday that is all going to be developed, whether by us or somebody else.
Right.
And you should take into consideration how you're going to do a configuration now. Because we all got to be a part of it.
I guess the thing is I think they wanted to see it at the south end of the ditch. It sounds to me like that can't happen. So if that can't happen, I don't know how we can even consider getting a street in that area either. I don't know. So, I'd be interested to see the traffic study too. They're left out onto Northgate Parkway. If they're going to restripe the street, that's fine. But boy, I would not want to be coming out the Dundee Road Drive at peak time and trying to go east, because I think that turn is going to be impossible. If it was me, I think I'd want to use the favor of the traffic light. And I don't know. It's a bad situation. I just can't see making a left out of that Dundee Road.
That's a tough one.
It's gonna be bad. I don't know, but hopefully the traffic study will shed some light. Location of the trash enclosure, that was gonna be is that at the T intersection there, the three-way intersection? And it was.
The trash enclosure is right there, so.
Okay, and how tall is that trash enclosure?
6 feet.
And is it going to be, so it'll be away from that intersection where there won't be any sightline issues or anything like that? With potential development from the east and traffic utilizing that road, there won't be any kind of sightline issues? I mean, that's what you came up with, and you feel that?
This was a suggestion by the Plan Commission to not keep it adjacent to the building, but keep it in a central location.
Okay.
So this is accommodating what you guys had
Okay.
passed this previously.
All right. As far as the landscape plan, is there any way we can get like some ornamental grasses and stuff incorporated into the site at all? Because I know we were talking about perennials, are you going to, is there plans to put in like ornamental grasses in that site at all?
Yes, that's an easy addition. When I indicate small shrubs, flowering shrubs, and I'm indicating pretty much I'm looking at sizes and growth rates, ultimate sizes. I'm looking at sight lines, the amount of space I have. When the site plan gets approved, a final landscape plan will be in your hands. It will be with enough detail that it can be bid and built. And it will have ornamentals on it, grasses, perennials. It'll have a lot of the things you're looking for.
And maybe some type of indication of what areas could potentially be irrigated on that
That's
site?
a good question. The irrigation could be tricky in some of those islands. It would require some issues. I noticed over in the public Park on the southeast corner, southwest corner, excuse me, there was a couple of vaults. One appeared to be an electric vault, another one appeared to be, it could have been an irrigation vault. And I don't have any idea what that's about. But does the village currently irrigate that? I didn't see any heads.
Yes, the village does currently irrigate that pocket park in the corner there.
It does?
That's, yeah, what you were looking at, I'm guessing the electrical box was probably the control box for it. I'm not too sure of the specifics there, but I do know that the Public Works irrigates that corner.
Okay, I did notice the vault.
Yeah.
Okay. We haven't really discussed irrigation, to be honest with you, but if that is a requirement, we will address it.
It is.
Yeah, it is. I guess, Kyle, can I ask you a couple questions? First of all, maybe for engineering, I know the original plan, I see now you've incorporated stormwater detention on the north and east side of the property. And it was kind of interesting, I didn't know, but it also looks like majority of the property is in a floodplain. So it's like, I assume that's why you have to have the stormwater management you have. And that's kind of like the only place you can hold it. And I would assume that you still said you have that stormwater management plan there, but you're still going to ask for a little bit more, correct? That you can't store it on the site.
We have two hands, two buckets that we have to deal with. One is the stormwater detention, which is required, for any site over a certain threshold, that we're providing on site. The other bucket is the compensatory storage for floodplain fill. So that's what we're asking to use a village credit for in the compensatory storage that's available in Heritage Park.
Okay.
The floodplain does occupy quite a bit of the site. However, it's very shallow. On average, it's about 4 inches. So it looks worse than it is.
I think this one is for Kyle. Kyle, I think in the report you mentioned something about, I'm going back to the detention on the north side. They're going to put detention there, but you also mentioned something about the drainage ditch and maintaining the bank in the drainage ditch. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Are you referring to the stream bank stabilization?
Yeah. How does what they do potentially affect that? I just from my information.
Well, what they're doing, that doesn't necessarily affect the stream bank stabilization, but when water erodes the stream bank, it could encroach onto their basin. Properties all along the Buffalo Creek, have suffered, the wrath of erosion, and they have had to come in and do stream bank stabilization. So why not do that from the start to prevent, because you do have your detention basin right there at the creek's edge. So if water were to erode the stream bank, you'd want that stabilized.
So can you explain to me the engineering again? So the retention area just retains the water, but you have another vehicle that I believe you said is going to take and dump some of the water into the actual ditch that goes into Lake Heritage. Is that right?
Right.
So what part of the site, or can you explain to me how that functions real quick?
Yeah. So the compensatory storage for the floodplain fill, that's just provided already in the Wheeling drainage ditch, which has been expanded with the Heritage Park. So that's to compensate for the floodplain fill that we're doing of that shallow floodplain.
Okay.
So that's the one hand. On the other, for the stormwater detention, all of the surface area with the site, all the new impervious area, the rooftops and everything, get routed into the stormwater basins that are proposed on the site. Once it's in there, it's released into the village's storm sewer system, which goes into the creek.
Okay.
So it's routed into the on-site basins, and then it's slowly released into the creek.
Okay, that's great. Thanks. I guess there was a comment about design of the buildings to be viewed from multiple sides. I guess I was looking for an elevation. I guess some different elevations, especially in the packet. Do we have an elevation of like what the northernmost building would look like from Northgate Parkway? Are we looking at, is there an elevation drawing? Is it the back of the building? I don't know. I think I got confused as to the elevations that we were given.
These, they were labeled typical rear elevations, but these are front and rear, but these would be very, very similar for building number 2. They would have the same materials, same spacing, same base size, but deeper, and essentially the same.
So so you have typical front elevation here, is that what?
That's going to be face Northgate Parkway and face Dundee Road. It's going to look like the typical front elevation. And then at the back of the building would be the rear elevation for both.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Photometric plan. I looked at the photometric plan that was submitted, and I have a concern about the amount of light that's, let's see here. It does look like you have exterior lighting on the building, but the drive-through lane on the north side of Building 2 seems to be low. Looks like you guys have, from what I'm reading it, you guys have a lot of light at the property line, at the end of the parking lots, and that's fine because the poles are there, but it seems like when you start encroaching into the building, the light seems to go down, and it just looked like the level on the north side of Building 2 was low. It was like under 1. So to me, that seems to be possibly kind of dark, and that may need to be looked at.
Understood. And looking at that, I think some building mounted lighting there.
Right. So I think something needs to be done there. So that was the comment I had by looking at that. I think that's pretty much what I have for now, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Commissioner Zangara.
Thank you. I'll talk about the landscaping first, since that's kind of fresh in my mind. In front of the 2 buildings, you have all this paved area. Why don't we show any like a planter box within the paved area?
There are 4-foot diameter planter boxes in the paved area.
There will be.
They are there.
Okay. And I know we keep talking about this bike rack, and I know you talked about it, being that little area. The way I'm seeing it right now with the apartments on Northgate Parkway, with the future development of the east side here, you're making these people go really far. I think the bike rack should be closer to the buildings, because most people that come up from Northgate Parkway are just going to go to the building. They're not going to go all the way down to the bike rack. And then I noticed, I guess, the question is, I'll tie this in the landscaping with the thing. What's your objective here? The greater concern, is it getting people coming off of Dundee Road, or is it getting people off of Northgate Parkway? I'm just trying to figure out, because it seems like just looking at it, it seems like Northgate Parkway is the thoroughbred, because it's going to lead into another development later on. So I'm just trying to wonder, should those, I'm thinking configuration, especially Building 1, I know it's on Dundee Road, but I just have a feeling that Northgate Parkway, that entrance is going to be the featured entrance, like we talked about, people using the stoplight. Trying to figure out why we want to feature that more, and I think you'd get better circulation like we talked about. And it's just a suggestion. That's why I'm just trying to wonder. Are we trying to get people from Dundee Road to see this, or are we trying, you're trying to get both, I know that. But
Dundee Road is the primary road that we're looking at to get the most traffic off of. There's a sizable amount of traffic going down Northgate Parkway, but only at peak hours. Otherwise, during the day, it's normal flow. The truckers are now using Lake Cook Road, and they got used to that. We don't have that many trucks on Dundee Road like we used to, except for the ones that are using the facilities in Wheeling. But we need to have that, be able to get that eastbound traffic back onto the eastbound Dundee Road. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we're going to lose some of the bigger vendors. Okay. Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, ice cream shops, stuff like that. You want to be able to get in and keep on going the same day that they were going. Coming home, okay, and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when you're coming westbound, okay, it's a no-brainer. You can go out on Dundee Road and just, it's set up very much like if you look at the markets, where Market Square is at, that shopping center, okay? It's almost identical to the setup that we're at. Because when you come out onto McHenry Road and you want to get back onto Dundee Road, it's the only way you can do it. They won't let you make a left turn up there on Dundee Road because of the railroad tracks. So you are crossing, okay, and it's almost the same distance. So, I mean, it's something that we have to work out, all right? Going up north on McHenry Road is no problem. But when that traffic is tough at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, sometimes that left turn lane going eastbound on Dundee Road is backed up quite a ways. But that's the way it is in our town, okay? There's no other way around it. So.
Then my question is where you have I guess you're going to call it the monument sign. Wouldn't that be better served closer to the Dundee entrance?
Say it again?
The monument sign for the Commons area. Wouldn't that be better served closer to the Dundee entrance than passing it?
Or adding another one.
Or having another one, or, there is no signage on Northgate Parkway. You don't have any monument signs telling you what's in the shopping center. So just a suggestion, maybe get another sign on Northgate, because you have one at Dundee, but it's all the way at the corner. I'm just wondering if you move it to the other end, are you going to get more people seeing it coming down before they pass it? Then they're going to have to turn on Northgate Parkway and use the entrance on Northgate Parkway. Well, just a suggestion. And then I guess my biggest concern is showing all these drive-throughs. Would it be, just like we did, I guess, at the Westin? I like that you're planning for them, they're there, but do we need to put them in right away? You might not have a restaurant that has a drive-through. If you put it in right away, why not it's planned for one if one comes in, but why not have that landscaped right now, knowing that you can put it in? I mean, that's my suggestion, because I saw on the first building, if you look at your landscape plan there, the north building, you have landscaping. I don't see where the drive-through is going to go. You have a buffer of landscaping between the drive-through lane and the building. So that landscaping there would be disappeared. So just the thing I like that you're thinking about it, but I would just have it there. You could fit there, but work as landscaping. You never know if it's going to be a drive. I'm sure there's going to be some drive-through. But if not, we're going to have all this. We're going to have a drive-through lane. I mean, you could plan it. That's something to look at, especially with two-way traffic. Then, especially coming around that, maybe you could get to a two-lane road in there instead of a drive-through. Just a suggestion. And then the idea with I talked about the rooftops and the visibility. Big thing with the visibility, we just talked about it, was the north end of the site. If you're up on that bridge, you're 5 or 6 feet higher. A car might be able to see a rooftop unit, so that'd be really a good spot to take a visibility. Other than that, for right now, I think I've hit everything. I've hit everything, and you've answered my questions as of right now, so I'll let the next person go.
Commissioner Sack.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will probably be redundant, but just to make a couple comments on some of the things. I had some of the same concerns that staff had, but I'll start with the previous time we'd looked at the plan and discussed. I remember seeing what is the plan on the traffic study with one building and one drive-through. We talked about seeing a plan with 2 buildings, and that made sense to me that's probably where the mistake was as far as using the original plan. And that ties into the discussion about the trash enclosure being in a central location. Just to clarify, I think Commissioner Zangara brought this up last time. I think the idea was not knowing what the site would look like. Now it's 2 drive-throughs. But previously, I think the idea was, could there be a central enclosure that both buildings could use in that area where that Northgate Parkway entrance road is going through now? So just wanted to point that out because that was brought up. The other, issues that I had, we've discussed also, but one of them was the walkways for pedestrians in the kind of, I'll call them the one-off parking areas. So the north side of the north building and then the east side of the south building. It just seems to me like with the traffic going right next to them, we discussed potentially having walkways, but that was a concern for me is how people would get around and walking, in particular on the north side, they would walk directly in front of the drive-through to get to any kind of restaurant or whatever it is over there. So that was a concern. The dead end that staff identified in the south building, just to be specific as a scenario, when I looked at it, I thought to myself, okay, someone turns in right from Dundee, they want to park immediately, to the west of the south building, and then let's say all the lots are full because you have a very busy and vibrant commercial area there, and then there are people going through the drive-through, what does that person do? So that to me is a very serious issue and concern now. So I'm just, that was my first thought, was a lot of people have a hard time reversing. So, that to me is a major issue. And I saw something about the green space requirement and needing some sort of relief from that. And I think it was something like 25% the requirement and they have 24. So I'm not sure what 1% amounts to and how difficult that would be, So if, for instance, to Commissioner Zangara's point, if you can use that other drive-through as a green space, that obviously would alleviate it. Is there another way to alleviate that somewhere else on the site? I'm not sure, just putting it out there. Other than that, some of the same things, so I don't want to be redundant, but that's essentially some of the main points that I picked off. That's it, thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. Well, let's see, we covered a lot of it. As far as the simple ones like the bike rack, I think you would need something by the north building as well as what you're putting in the pocket park. Crosswalks would be needed across either or both of the drive-through things. We will need to see all the elevations and details on the materials being used. Brooke, does the change of use of this property require IDOT to do anything as far as the entrance? I know it's an existing curb cut, but...
If they modify it, we talked about modifying the Dundee Road access.
If any modifications are done in the IDOT right-of-way, then they'll need to acquire an IDOT permit. But as far as change of use, I don't believe you'll have to go through IDOT for that.
We will be needing an IDOT permit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because you're definitely widening it, I'm sure. Okay, we talked in length about the problems with the traffic flow through there. I too am concerned about the dead end on the south parking lot. This one I just happened to think of regarding another project. Will your site plan take into consideration the changes being made on Dundee? They're going to widen it a few feet.
That is actually one of staff's concerns that wasn't quite put into the staff report.
Okay.
There is some modifications to the roadways in relation to the plans for the town center and Community Boulevard. I think there's is it the westbound right lane queue that's being lengthened
Uh,
on Dundee?
For the community boulevard improvements, they are going to be widening I guess, both lanes. So from the current curb line, they're going to be going back about 3 feet. I'm pretty sure that goes all the way to the Northgate Parkway intersection, all the way to the fire station. So they will probably be bringing that curb line back. I'd have to double check and see if it goes all the way to Northgate, but for a pretty good section of that road, they're going to be pushing the curb back about 3 feet.
Okay. And I believe there are some changes on Dundee Road as well with regard to the town center. And so we'll make sure that you have those plans, that you can incorporate those into your site as well.
Along those same lines, left turn from westbound Dundee onto Northgate as part of the town center thing, whenever that happens, is that left turn lane going to be lengthened?
I think it's still too early to tell. IDOT has made some comments regarding that. I haven't personally seen the comments, so I'm not quite sure. But right now, there's ample space. But if they do extend it a little bit, that left turn lane, that could be a problem. But it's still too early to tell with IDOT comments.
Are you expecting traffic going eastbound on Dundee to turn in the Dundee entrance, or and they'd be better off going up Northgate, I would think, but.
Well, if they have to, they're going to.
Because that's where that left turn lane thing comes to mind, where.
Yeah, well, right now, we don't have it designated either way, you know. We've got people trying to make a left turn into the post office, of course, you know, and you got people turning here.
Yeah.
You got a bullnose situation going, okay? There are going to be some people that are going to miss the turn on Northgate to come into our center, okay, and then have to go down a little bit and try to get in, okay? If they do that right now, if they miss going into
Oh, I know, if they miss the post
Market
office.
Square area over there, if they
Yeah.
miss the turn there, they go down to the, they make a left by the tracks.
You know, Mr. Hahn, I know you're trying to equate the two, Wheeling Road and Dundee Road and Northgate and Dundee. But in reality, they're vastly different because you've got Wheeling Road that goes all the way up to Lake Cook Road, and there's not that main, when you think about Northgate, Northgate is the main road to get to Wheeling off of Lake Cook Road.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really vastly different, in my eyes, vastly different than Wheeling Road and Dundee. I mean, they look the same, they're cross streets, and they have the same type of entrances, and actually, you can't turn left out of Market Square, Lynn Plaza. You can't turn left onto Dundee out of Lynn Plaza.
That's correct.
Right, so,
Although it's done quite often.
Oh, yeah, it's done all the time, but, yeah, granted, yeah, it's done all the time. But they're just, the flows are different on those two roads. And I know we're trying to compare them, but to me, they're just apples and oranges. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Gave me a break. Let's see. I'm amazed at these traffic studies that they can come up with 82 pages or whatever it was with 3 two-hour snapshots on a Tuesday and a Saturday. It varies from day to day, so that could be, you know, way off. And I don't know how it coincided with the construction disruption at Dundee and Elmhurst, which has diverted a lot of traffic off of Dundee. I notice now the traffic on Dundee is lighter because people have found other ways around it, like Hintz. And they come up with 82 pages of stuff from those snapshots. I just wonder how accurate that is. Another thing, they seem to focus that study on a donut/coffee shop and didn't really talk about everything else that's hopefully going to be in Dundee Commons. So I don't know if they really took a good look at how that site's being used. Oh, and they also had the railroad on the wrong side. They said it's to the east and not the west. So my concerns with the traffic aren't getting people in, it's getting people out. If I were to go in and partake of the drive-through and want to get it home while it's still warm, that's going to be a problem at certain times of day. Just like it is for Burger King. I don't usually go there during the 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock hour because of that. So it's just more stuff to look at. I think I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have a few questions, and then we'll figure out the next steps. My comment, the left-hand out on both Northgate and Dundee are just a real big concern of mine. Very big concern of mine. So, and I know that will be discussed, so we don't have to talk about that. And I realize we're going to, you'll work with staff on the parking, how we're going to compute that, because that's got to really be done now. It's got to be done now. We can't anticipate. I don't think this is probably a site where we actually don't have to worry about snow removal, because we probably have access to do that. One of the comments I heard was the bike racks. Did you say that they were going to be on village property, the bike racks? No, okay, I must have misunderstood. Okay, they're on, all right. Okay, I can scratch that, okay. As far as landscape, for instance, on so it's the south side, the parking along Dundee Road there. Right, exactly. So the bottom part. So I assume you're going to have some type of shrubbery that will protect, that will shield the lights from the parking lot so people aren't blinded as, at night, that they're going by, that they, that eventually they will cover that lighting, so lights from cars. So we just have that, take that into consideration.
That's correct. The same application occurs on the west side.
Yes, right. That one's probably not so important as the one that's right there, because traffic sits there sometimes, but on Northgate it moves, but great. And then, since you have that up, at some point in time, we're going to need quantities of what you're planting and calipers, because we have minimum requirements for calipers of trees, and all of that is in our...
They can come at final PUD.
Right.
Right now, we're just looking for
Right.
a plant palette for foundation plantings versus parking islands versus the basin areas.
The preliminary hearing, this preliminary plan, what you're asking for is very standard fare, and you will receive it.
Okay, great, thank you. Then, I think that's all I had on the landscape, so...
All right, thank you.
All right. The compensatory, you're looking for a credit, I believe, is what you said. So, and you don't have to get up. This is probably just a general question, maybe to Brooke or Kyle. Is that required? How am I saying this? Is that required? Are we, as a plan commission, required to know that at final, whether that credit has been issued? And they can work with that credit. Is that needed at final?
That should be, yes, it should be reflected in their plans, their request for any comp storage credit, the amount of it, and it would be reflected in their engineering plans.
Yes, and just for clarification, the what's proposed now is 1.1 to 1. Our village code is 1.5 to 1 for comp storage, so that will have to be taken into consideration.
Okay, cool. And then my last question, and this is for the architecture for the buildings. The backside of the buildings that are viewable, you know, if you think about building 2, and you said a typical, this is what it's typically going to look like. Well, you know, when we're successful of building to the east, and whatever that happens, you know, if you could add some architectural design to those, instead of it just being plain white buildings, you know, plain buildings, add some architectural design to that to, you know, we all know it's the rear of the building. We all know that. But if something can be added to that.
Well, what we're trying to do here is the back is not that different from the front. We have two different uses of material. We have limestone detailing, we have awnings, we have signage, we have gutters and downspouts which break up the visual relief of the building. We have the interesting shapes as it wraps around the corner. I mean, it's not your standard back of the building, strip mall.
Right. Understood, but it sort of looks standard to me, but that's my own personal opinion. Yeah.
Okay.
So, just a suggestion, just something to think about as we go through here. Talked about that. That's really all I had, Brooke. So why don't can we review what we have so far, and of course we're going to continue this date certain. So
Okay. So what's come out of this, the Plan Commission's suggestions are demonstrate safe pedestrian circulation and access, adjust the low light areas on the photometric plan, incorporate Dundee Road and Northgate Parkway improvements from the Community Boulevard signalization and Wheeling Town Center plans into the proposal. Consider additional monument signs, consider placing bike racks closer to the buildings, dress up the rear of the buildings, and the updated traffic study must reflect the proposed site plan and respond to all of staff's and PC's traffic concerns. And then I'll provide the staff exhibit that was shown earlier for on-site circulation, but we went through a lot of other traffic considerations, traffic concerns, parking concerns, access to and from Northgate and Dundee Road. All those things that were mentioned should be addressed in the updated traffic study as well.
I just thought of something else. I was looking through my notes here. Mr. Hine, on page 3, we talked, the staff report talks about code relief. And there's 4 items. One was the open space, and I think Commissioner Isaku.
What page are you on?
Page 3, code relief requested.
Okay.
So the first one mentions open space, and Commissioner Isaku mentioned it. You're at 24%, minimum is 25%. So again, if that's truly the numbers you're going to be using, you're going to have to get a variation. So I'm not certain if you realize that as you're going through this. We know we need the variation of the multiple buildings on a site. That's a given.
That's a given.
Yeah. And the setback, you're, what, a little more than a foot. So I don't know if that can be adjusted, so you don't need a variation?
I think with some of the site plan considerations that were brought up today, that will probably be pushed back a bit.
Okay. And then I think you mentioned the parking aisle width. So I'm just trying to cut down on the number of variations that you need, because I know what those are. So just so you're aware that, so you see that. And that was all I had, so.
So I added that to the list, that
Yeah.
they should address all variations requested.
Right, and if they're needed and you feel they're needed, then we'll go for it. I mean, you have to go for it, not us. you know.
Well, I think we're going to find it's workable to.
Sure, right, exactly, right. The less variations we have, the
That's why they
better.
have erasers on pencils.
Right. Erasers on pencils. Okay, so we have, I mean, there's a number of items that need to be covered. So we have a continuation to a date certain. And, well, our next meeting is in 2 weeks, right? Yes.
Right, that's not feasible. So we would need your plans, your updated traffic study, and all the other plans updated about 2 weeks before the next meeting.
So the next meeting is, of course, the,
So
next
if we're
meeting would be
looking
the 11th.
Right, that's not going.
That's
to
not
work.
happening.
So August 25th would be the
Date
next.
certain of-
The 25th,
possible.
right?
Right, that would be the next one. Is that,
So that means to be on the August 25th agenda, you would need your plans into us about, let's say, August 12th. That's a Friday.
Right,
That's in 2 weeks.
right.
okay, so make a motion to continue to the date certain of August 25th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Saku, second by Commissioner Powers. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Saku.
Yes.
Commissioner Powers votes yes. Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Zangara.
Yes.
Chairman Rafato.
Yes.
Thank
That's
you.
it. Thank you, Bill. We
Okay.
have, we have a copy for you.
Yep.
It's Ryan that you can take.
Who were the motion and second?
Uh,
Oh,
Commissioner
Saku
Saku,
and
Commissioner
Powers.
Powers.
Thank you.
We don't need to sign it. No.
No.
No. Continuation. Thank you.
Yes.
Approval of minutes, July 14th, 2016.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple corrections.
Yes.
The packet, I sent this to Brooke, page 159 of the packet. Commissioner Dorman made the motion, and I did not. Page 161 of the packet, Chairman Rafato asked for the motion, Commissioner Dorman made the motion, but nobody seconded it. And page 162 of the packet, last paragraph, I read the statements and not Chairman Rafato.
I used to.
I know you did. You gave that up.
Thank you. And Commissioner Johnson, you had,
A correction to the findings of fact, yeah.
and that was at what page?
Page 6 of 7. The second paragraph that we okayed Cafe Zupas to open up a health clinic. It may be healthy food, but
It's not a health clinic. Okay, so we have a motion to approve the minutes with the corrections listed.
so moved.
Second.
All those, do we have to, can we do a voice vote? I can't remember. Yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, great, thank you. A health clinic. We needed some levity here. Other business, Brooke?
I have nothing.
Great. Commissioner Johnson?
Nothing.
Commissioner Isaku?
Nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Powers?
Nothing.
Commissioner Zangara?
Nothing.
Okay, I have a couple of things. Dundee and 83, you know, they're doing all of that work. And Phillips 66 had to take down their sign. It's no longer there because of all the work being done. When they put it back up, do they have to come back before us? Because they're going to probably have to redo landscaping? I mean, that whole block?
They may have to if they need, if they need a variation, they would definitely have to come back to you. If they need a substantially different landscape plan, they would need to come back to you.
You might
Yeah, there's
want,
not a whole lot of space for that sign anymore.
yeah, there's
Right.
not a whole heck of a lot of space. So somebody might want to contact the owner.
We've been in discussions with them, but they are the ones who have to come to us
I know,
with the actual proposal.
I know, but I would just hate for them to start putting up a sign and then, yeah, it comes to us and we gotta say no, something. And also, I believe that Commissioner Johnson emailed both of us about the Walgreens changing their faces.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I'm still working on that.
Okay. The Walgreens at Dundee and Schoenbeck changed their face.
Yeah, I think the sign is different at Milwaukee too now.
Is it?
I think they went with that white background too.
Okay, I'll look.
Now, they did some other work on like the wall sign that day too, but they didn't change it. I think they might have converted it to LED if it wasn't before, because they had the panels off and you could see the LEDs in there. You had something about Tire Boss or Tire Chief. Who had that?
I just wasn't sure what the status was. I was just, they had come to us a while back now, and I honestly don't remember if it was a switch from Tire Boss to Tire Chief or a switch from Tire Chief to Tire Boss. But what I noticed is that the lights are in fact different on the current sign. Tire is brighter than Boss, I think. So I just noticed that.
I think that is the new sign.
Yeah, so.
And they were supposed to be the same.
Yeah, they were.
All right, I'll look into that.
They were supposed to be the same or come back to us with whatever it was, so I just noticed that.
And I'm just curious about the assisted living here.
Bill Whitley?
Yeah. It doesn't seem like there's any activity.
There's not much. There's usually a couple of guys there every day, but I haven't talked to the general contractor too much lately.
Just odd. They have those two towers up that probably hold the elevators, and that's it.
No, those are the stairways. The elevator
stairways.
one, they're still building.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I'm not really sure what's going on.
Wow, okay.
Again?
Well, yeah, they had
Oh.
yeah, they had a funding issue, then they reworked what they were gonna
Right.
do with the HVAC.
Oh, that's
They weren't
right.
gonna have
Yeah.
rooftops, so then they were gonna change over to steel construction, more steel. And maybe that's where the hangup is, getting that steel manufactured, I don't know.
All right.
They're on site almost every day.
Good. Motion to adjourn.
Do our visitors have any business? Okay.
Motion
moved.
to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Ron.